Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. The system is too pampering, and rewards are given in various ways. Chapter 81. Dajo, on the border. The six dynasties tore up the contract and openly sent out troops to besiege the Great Zhou dynasty, trying to split the Great Zhou dynasty into pieces. Now there is a killing on this border. The wind and sand rolled into your eyes, and countless corpses were buried in it. The dazzling red seems to be the only color in this world. On the border wall, many soldiers who had just repelled the dynastic coalition forces were slumped on the ground. Some were seriously injured and wailing, while others were exhausted. Even martial saints like the sky-splitting Sword Saint, Wine Saint, and Li Zinshu could not help but show a hint of fatigue in their brows. The attack just now was just a test by the six dynasties, and this million-strong army is just the vanguard of the six dynasties. Their real main force has not arrived yet, but according to the spies' reports, their main force is at least tens of millions. Tens of millions of troops. Hearing this word, even Martial Saint couldn't help but feel numb. Li Zinshu said angrily, "The six dynasties are really so shameless. I thought that even if they didn't give 600 cities, but just give it to a dozen or so, but I didn't expect that they actually sent troops directly." After seeing the strength of young friend Ling Feng, they still dare to send troops to suppress the situation. It seems that they have an unknown trump card. Well, let's think about how to get through this difficulty first. We have an army of tens of millions. Just hearing this number makes my head hurt. At this time, not far away, a roar came. Outside the city wall, a million-strong army swept in like a black torrent, and those at the front were several powerful martial saints. A terrifying and murderous aura, like a surging flood of beasts, made the soldiers of Dajo swallow their saliva. Here we go again. These guys just attacked an hour ago. Ma Dan, how amazing are these people? Li Zinshu was very angry and took the lead and rushed towards the army. He clenched his 5 fingers tightly and punched out. The fist intention swept out like a tide. The bodies of ordinary soldiers exploded in front of this fist intention. But Martial Saint across the street is not just for a living. One person stepped forward and attacked Li Zinshu. The two martial saints began to clash. The sky-splitting Sword Saint, Wine Saint, Ruthless Sword Saint and others were not idle either. They all took action together, but they were all restrained by the powerful martial saint on the opposite side. There was a melee between the two sides, with you going back and forth, each refusing to give in to the other. The battle of Martial Saint was an earth-shaking battle. And the million-strong army also began to attack the city. The sound of war drums echoed across heaven and earth. The cry of killing resounded throughout the world. In this battlefield that is like Shira's purgatory, human life is as trivial as a piece of grass and is not worth mentioning. Everyone is fighting together like crazy demons. Roar. At this time, a roar resounded throughout the world. I saw a huge elephant heading towards the city gate. No, it's Dachu's siege weapon, the ferocious mammoth giant elephant. On the city wall, a general's expression changed slightly. The mammoth is a terrifying ferocious beast that originates from Dachu. When it reaches adulthood, it can be dozens of feet tall. Its skin is invulnerable to invulnerability, water and fire. It is extremely powerful and can easily attack cities and demolish strongholds. It is the siege weapon that Dachu is most proud of. It is also the enemy's nightmare on the battlefield. The giant mammoths were as powerful as a bamboo, and they rushed towards the city. Everywhere, every soldier was trampled into a pulp. No matter how everyone tried to stop it, it was of no avail. And on the giant elephant, there was a man in a golden robe sitting. He laughed loudly. "Dajo, in front of my giant elephant, Dachu, is not worth mentioning. He is the prince of Dachu." He went to the battlefield in person this time because he wanted to make achievements and lay the foundation for his future ascension to the throne. If I can take the lead in conquering the border of Great Zhou and achieve such great feats, then the throne of Great Chu will belong to me in the future. Ha ha ha, giant elephant, charge. Go, go, go. Prince Dachu stood on the giant elephant, looking at the soldiers who were trampled into mud one by one, with an excited smile on his face. In his opinion, these people are just stepping stones on his way to becoming an emperor. Death is not a pity. No, in other words, it is an honor for these people to be able to become his stepping stone. Dajo, you will be the beginning of my dominance. After I capture you, I will wipe out the other 5 countries one by one, so that there will only be one dynasty in this world, Chu. And I am the supreme overlord who rules the world. The eyes of Prince Dachu showed deep ambition. And just when the giant elephant under his seat was about to hit the border city gate, a sword light suddenly came from not far away. The sword light fell in front of the city gate, and dragon-shaped sword energy swept out. The 6-nation coalition forces were thrown away one after another under the sword energy. Even the giant mammoth elephant was shaking and teetering, and Prince Dachu on the giant elephant was blown away directly and fell on the battlefield. What's the situation? He was a little confused about what happened suddenly. He looked towards the city gate. I saw an extra long sword appearing there at some point. Thousands of dragon-shaped sword energy lingered on the sword's edge, and countless soldiers were thrown away. In front of the sword, not a single soldier could stand at all. At this time, above the sky, a figure slowly descended. The person was dressed in white, with flying sleeves. His temperament was extraordinary, and his posture was like an immortal. For a moment, the entire battlefield became silent. They looked at the approaching figure, either shocked, obsessed, or curious, but without exception, they were all involuntarily attracted at this moment. Little friend Ling Feng. Seeing him, the sky-splitting sword master and others' eyes lit up, as if they had seen a savior. And Ling Feng fell from the sky and landed on the hilt of the 7-star Longyuan sword. Just tap your toes, and the earth will shake. 6-nation alliance, retreat. Otherwise, there will be consequences at your own risk. Ling Feng said indifferently. The sound was like rolling thunder, resounding throughout the battlefield in an instant. Retreat. You're kidding. The allied forces of the 6 nations are here, and you, the great Zhou dynasty, are simply unable to support you. What reasons do you have and what qualifications do you have to ask us to withdraw our troops? The Dachu prince sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Feng glanced at him. Then, he blew a gentle breath. Just one glance. The prince of Dachu felt as if he was struck by lightning, and his expression changed wildly. Then the next moment, the breath Ling Feng exhaled turned into an unparalleled sword energy that overwhelmed him and strangled him into a ball of blood mist. Your Highness, you actually killed His Highness. When a general from Dachu saw this, his expression changed, he roared angrily, and led many soldiers to rush towards Ling Feng. Soldiers, kill. Avenge His Highness. No matter how strong he is only one person. There are so many of us, how can he kill them all? We can drown him. Yes, kill. Facing the soldiers coming like a tide, Ling Feng looked indifferently. If you do evil by God, you can still survive. If you do evil by yourself, you can't live. He opened his mouth and inhaled, and boundless spiritual energy surged towards him. Vomit again. The endless spiritual energy turned into a storm of sword energy and surged out. Wherever he went, mountains and rivers shook, and the heaven and earth were in turmoil. The entire battlefield fell apart. Each soldier could not bear such power and fell one after another. Even the rough-skinned and thick-fleshed mammoth was torn out with blood marks by the sword energy, and fell to the ground after a while. On the battlefield, Ling Feng descends, and a sword energy sweeps away like a hurricane. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the million-strong army was lost. The scene in front of me was like purgatory. But in the eyes of the soldiers of the great Zhou dynasty, the man in front of them was like a god coming to turn the tide and save them from the fire and water. Withdraw troops. In the 6 nations alliance, a martial saint roared. He looked at Ling Feng, with deep fear in his eyes. This guy is simply a monster. What can even an army of tens of millions of people, not to mention an army of millions, do to him? We can only retreat first and then think of a way. The army retreated like a tide. Ling Feng stood where he was and did not pursue him. These are just ordinary soldiers. No matter how many they kill, it is useless. The real main force of the 6 nations alliance has not yet arrived. The real battle has not yet begun. Sky-splitting sword master and others returned to the city and expressed their gratitude to Ling Feng. It doesn't matter, I won the 600 cities. If they don't intend to fulfill their contract, then I should be the one to finish it. Ling Feng said calmly. He glanced at the wounded soldiers in the city and sighed. No matter what the outcome is, it is these ordinary soldiers and common people who will suffer. Ding. Closing square bracket. The host repels an army of millions by itself, and rewards the host with auxiliary healing spells, all things are rejuvenated. Closing square bracket. A mysterious message emerged in Ling Feng's mind. Rejuvenation of all things, healing spell. If it is used to the extreme, it can kill people with flesh and bones. Ling Feng's eyes lit up. Doesn't this come at the right time? Splitting Sky Sword Master, please gather all the wounded soldiers together, and I will treat them. Ling Feng said to Sky Splitting Sword Master. Hearing this, several martial saints were a little surprised. Little friend Ling Feng, you actually have medical skills. Know a little bit, but there are so many people, even if you have medical skills, you won't be able to save them all by yourself, and you have to recharge your batteries to prepare for the upcoming war. The treatment should be left to the accompanying military doctors. Quote. The Sky-Splitting Sword Master advised. It's not that he doesn't care about the people, but Ling Feng is too important. Without him in the next war, it will be difficult for them to defend the border. And if Ling Feng wasted too much energy on treating the wounded and made a mistake during the battle, it would be more than worth the loss. Ling Feng shook his head and smiled. Juggernaut, believe me. That's okay. Unable to defeat Ling Feng, the Sky-Splitting Sword Master had no choice but to do as he was told and had all the injured gathered together to form a wounded soldier camp. At the same time, military doctors were also sent to treat him. There was a cry in the wounded barracks. The seriously injured soldiers were lying on the bed in pain, and the slightly injured soldiers were also wrapped in bandages, watching their comrades in pain silently. Military doctors are busy, but there were too many injured. The military doctors are simply too busy. Doctor, can I save my leg? Doctor, it's too painful. Please kill me. Ooh, doctor, help me. The entire wounded camp was filled with pain. The military doctors were extremely busy, but they could not save many people. At this time, Ling Feng walked in. Some soldiers saw him and knew that without him, the city would have been destroyed. They quickly stood up and saluted. I have seen Ling Feng, Martial Saint. You're welcome, sit down. Ling Feng waved his hand quickly. Are all the injured here? Well, most of them are here. A military doctor nodded and sighed helplessly. It's too difficult to save them at all. Even if some people are saved, they will probably be useless. Hearing this, Ling Feng nodded slightly and said, leave it to me. Does Ling Feng, Martial Saint, also have medical skills? That's all, you can do whatever you want. The military doctor shook his head. No hope at all. Even the best doctors in the world would be helpless if they came here. The battlefield is the most ruthless and deadly. No matter how skilled a doctor is, he is still a human being, not a god. There are only so many people you can save on the battlefield. Ling Feng looked at the soldiers in front of him who were either wailing or holding back the pain. He took a deep breath and the true qi in his body began to circulate rapidly. All things are rejuvenated. In an instant, a majestic true qi surged out of Ling Feng's body. Although this true qi is majestic, it is not violent. On the contrary, when it spreads, it is like a breeze, making people feel comfortable. The breeze caressed everyone present, and the soldiers who were still wailing felt that the pain on their bodies was quickly fading away. At the same time, bursts of green light began to emit from their wounds. The light is flowing and the wounds are recovering quickly. The scene in front of them was like a miracle to everyone. Immediately afterwards, a doctor seemed to have discovered something. He pointed at the broken arm of an injured person in shock and said in shock, it's grown. It's grown. I saw the wounded man with a broken arm, and flesh and blood began to grow on the broken arm. A brand new arm is actually growing. This scene has shocked everyone so much that they cannot describe it in words. The entire wounded barracks was filled with green light and full of life. One by one, the injured began to walk on the ground. Back to good health. Half an hour later, there was not a single wounded person in the wounded barracks. Everyone looked at this scene, dumbfounded, speechless for a long time. Plop. No one knew who was the first to kneel in front of Ling Feng. Thank you to the gods, thank you to the gods. The gods are so kind, we will never forget them. In their view, Ling Feng was already the incarnation of a god at this time. After all, except for gods, who else can be the living dead, flesh and bones? No, the military doctors all knelt on the ground. Miracle doctor, no, a medical fairy. You are simply a medical fairy. I have been practicing medicine all my life, but I never expected that I would be lucky enough to see the true face of the medical immortal today. Even if I die, it will be worth it. Ooh, medical immortal, please accept me as your disciple. Medical fairy, are you in need of someone to serve you tea and water? I can do that. The originally sad wounded barracks was now filled with a happy atmosphere. And the other side, the sky-splitting sword master and the wine saint were also walking towards the wounded barracks. Well, I hope little friend Ling Feng won't push himself too hard. After all, how can he save so many injured people by himself? I'm even more afraid that little friend Ling Feng will be too sad. He is such a kind and gentle person, and he is full of righteousness. Seeing so many injured people lying in front of him but being unable to do anything, I'm afraid it will leave some psychological shadow on him. Yes, after all, he is still just a teenager. Hopefully he can handle it. Several people came to the wounded barracks, but they didn't hear any screams. On the contrary, there was still laughter coming from the wounded barracks. What's going on? The sky-splitting sword saints were a little puzzled. When they walked into the wounded barracks, what they saw was not the purgatory-like scene they had imagined. On the contrary, able-bodied soldiers stood with rosy faces. Did we go wrong? Isn't this a wounded barracks? The sky-splitting sword saints were a little confused and even went out to take a look. That's right, it's the wounded barracks. Little friend Ling Feng, what happened? The sky-splitting sword master asked curiously. It's nothing, I just treated it. Ling Feng said with an indifferent expression. But he was indifferent, but others were not. The military doctors all felt that Ling Feng was too indifferent. The reason may be because he doesn't care about fame and fortune, let alone how earth-shattering and great what he does is. But they felt it was necessary to let everyone know how great he was. Heroes should not be nameless. So the military doctors told the sky-splitting sword master and others what Ling Feng had done, and the other soldiers also testified one by one. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Ling Feng martial saint, he is truly a god in this world. Yeah, it's so powerful. It's a great blessing for Great Zhou to have Ling Feng martial saint. The sky-splitting sword master and others were almost stunned as they listened to everyone's stories. They looked at Ling Feng in confusion. Little friend Ling Feng, are everything they said true? Well, except for the fact that the medical fairy is too exaggerated when he is alive, it is basically true. Is this an exaggeration? If this were true, you would be a medical fairy. Sky-splitting sword master and others looked at Ling Feng with fiery eyes. This young man obviously possesses so many powerful means, he is like a god. But he is very humble. This made them extremely admired and respected, but also a little speechless. Do you want to be so humble? You are so humble that we, the martial saints, are not proud of you. Haha, there is Ling Feng in the Great Zhou dynasty, why should we be afraid of the Six Nations allied forces? Li Zinshu laughed loudly and patted Ling Feng on the shoulder. When the Six Nations allied forces were mentioned, a hint of coldness flashed in Ling Feng's eyes. He can be gentle and humble toward his friends. But for the enemy, he will only be colder and crueler than the devil. On the other side of the battlefield, the main force of the Six-Nation Alliance is moving forward. The densely packed soldiers spread out for more than 10 miles, with countless chariots, strong bows and crossbows, catapults, and various weapons of war. Cavalry, infantry, archers, all kinds of arms. What's even more exaggerated is that there are dozens of mammoths that are dozens of feet tall. Each end is like a mountain. This terrifying lineup is enough to wipe out everything. It can be said that this is the largest legion that this world can produce. As for the leading generals, they looked at the lineup in front of them with extremely excited expressions. As a general, being able to command such an army would have no regrets in life. With the Six-Nation Coalition, the Great Zhou dynasty will be defeated. Hey, maybe we don't need to rush over. The border of Dazhou is probably broken now. All we have left is to go straight to Wanglong. Don't relax too much, the Great Week is not easy. At this time, Lao Gansheng said calmly. He was the leader of Daqian's army in this coalition. He looked at the other leaders with a solemn look in his eyes. When the other people heard this, they didn't take it to heart. With such an army, can Dazhou still be able to turn the tide? A general said calmly. The army of the Great Zhou dynasty is naturally unable to resist us, but there is still one variable in the Great Zhou dynasty, and that is Ling Feng. If this person is not eliminated, he will always be a hidden danger to us. Mentioning the word Ling Feng, there was a hint of fear in Lao Gansheng's eyes. He will never forget what happened at the Seven Dynasties conference in his life. Dozens of martial saints were defeated by a boy. This was something he couldn't even imagine. But it really happened in front of him. Old Gansheng, it seems that the failure of the Seven Dynasties conference has made you scared to death by this kid. A general in black armor said calmly. He was the general marshal of the Chu dynasty. His cultivation has already reached martial saint. But as a marshal, he could not act without permission, so he did not attend the Seven Dynasties conference. After hearing that Zhou had won 600 cities, he was shocked and angry. After hearing other people's stories, he felt even more outrageous. Don't believe it at all. He only thought that these martial saints were making excuses for his failure. He was also one of the people who promoted the Six-Nation Alliance. After all, how could they be willing to give away 100 cities at once? Since they are not willing to give it, they just need to deal with Da Zhou. For Ling Feng, he may be a little afraid in his heart. But now that tens of millions of troops are in front of him, surrounded by countless martial arts masters, he is confident that he can destroy all obstacles in front of him. When you see him, you will know that what I said is true. Lao Gansheng also knew that Marshal Da Chu did not believe him, but he did not say much. Oh, I'm afraid I might not be able to see him. I have already sent people to ask people from the Shira organization to take action. This time, King Shira, the leader of the Shira organization and the king of killers, will personally take action. No one can do it under his control. Survive by hand. Marshal Da Chu said calmly. Everyone was quite surprised. King Shira has not taken action for decades. I didn't expect that the Generalissimo could actually invite him. It seems that this Ling Feng is in danger. Yes, King Shira, as the king of killers, has never been defeated. Marshal Da Chu smiled slightly. Invite King Shira. He paid a lot of money and promised to give him 50 cities after capturing the Great Zhou dynasty. Only then was the other party willing to take action. Of course, it is impossible for Da Chu to give these 50 cities to him. By then, the 6 dynasties will all share the burden. Report: the vanguard has failed. At this time, a martial artist entered the camp and said. Hearing this, Marshal Da Chu's eyes narrowed. Can't a million-strong army attack the border of Da Zhou? Da Zhou does have 2 brushes. How many people have been lost? Returning to the marshal, most of the troops were lost, and only a few 100,000 people came back. What, with 1 million troops gone, there are only a few 100,000 left? When did the Great Zhou have such ability? What happened? It's Ling Feng. Ling Feng took action. The martial artist said quickly, with fear on his face. Marshal Da Chu frowned. Ling Feng again. Is he so powerful? Can he easily defeat my million-strong army? By the way, where is the prince? The prince was killed. Hateful. Marshal Da Chu punched the table, and the table immediately turned into powder. His eyes were cold and he said, Ling Feng, you must die. Calculating the time, King Shira and the others should have arrived at the border of Da Chu. I want to see how you can stop their assassination. In the border city of Da Zhou, Ling Feng was walking on the street, surrounded by patrol soldiers on alert. When they saw Ling Feng, they all saluted and said hello. In addition to soldiers, there were many civilians. Some people carried hoes and butcher knives and headed towards the city wall. I want to live and die with the border. But they were all stopped. Fighting is our business. All you have to do is follow the instructions and take refuge. A soldier said. Everyone is responsible for the rise and fall of a country. How can we escape? It's not to that point yet. Don't worry, if there is really no other way, there will be a chance for you to perform. The soldier said helplessly and persuaded these people to leave. Ling Feng watched from the side and sighed secretly. The people of Da Zhou are still very bloody. Zheng. At this time, there was a sound of piano. Ling Feng looked along the sound of the piano, and on the street not far away, an old man was playing. The music was high, like a golden song. Ling Feng was attracted and slowly stepped forward. As if aware of his arrival, The old man raised his eyes and glanced at him, then smiled and continued playing, the sound of the piano becoming more and more passionate. It even seems to pierce the eardrum. A sound from the piano suddenly shot towards Ling Feng like a sharp blade. Ling Feng flicked his finger, shattering the sharp blade of the piano sound, and said calmly, "Old man, you play the piano well, but unfortunately, the murderous intention is too strong. Oh, I'm here to organize the Qin demon, Shira, to take your life." The old man smiled lightly. "You alone are not enough, let others come out." As soon as Ling Feng finished speaking, murderous intent suddenly rose between heaven and earth. As soon as Ling Feng finished speaking, murderous intent arose between heaven and earth. A chilling aura instantly enveloped the entire place. On the street, some people who had not yet left couldn't help but gasp, their scalps numb, and they felt like they were in an icy hell. "It feels so scary. What on earth is going on? Don't ask, get out of here." "No, it looks like someone is going to deal with Ling Feng martial saint. How can we just sit back and watch? I want to help him," said a hot-blooded young man. But he was slapped on the head by an old man next to him. "You silly boy, just don't hold Ling Feng martial saint back here, why don't you help him? You don't have any self-awareness at all, go quickly, don't get in the way here." Quote. Ling Feng waved his sleeves, and the cold sword intent spread. To contend with the rising murderous intent between heaven and earth, at the same time, he looked at the other people with a smile and said calmly, "Everyone, leave first." "Yes, Ling Feng martial saint, you must be careful." The people all knew that staying would only get in the way, so they left quickly, but at this time, a cold voice came from the air. "Take a few people as hostages." Yes, several black shadows rushed out of the void and rushed toward the people. Suddenly, a sword shadow shot out into the sky. One of the men in black was torn apart by sword energy in the blink of an eye. Ling Feng's figure flashed like a ghost, and his speed was so fast that people couldn't react at all. The killers who went to catch the people were slapped to the ground by him in the blink of an eye, their muscles and bones exploded, and they almost turned into a puddle of flesh. As the Shira organization's method of seizing people as hostages so despicable? Ling Feng said indifferently, the sword intent on his body becoming more and more chilling. In the void, one after another figures walked out. There are 70 or 80 people, each of whom is at least a martial artist in the venerable realm world. There are several martial saints, especially the leader, a tall man wearing a golden mask. He holds a spear in his hand and his eyes are as cold as ice. "We are killers. As long as we can complete the task, no matter what method we use, it is normal," the tall man said calmly. "You look like the leader." "I am the leader of the Shira organization, King Shira." "Oh, King Shira, the name sounds quite majestic." Ling Feng smiled, and in the next moment, he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of King Shira. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and punched out violently. The fist punch broke through the air and shook the world. King Shira's expression changed slightly and he raised his hand to block. Boom! The fists and palms hit each other, and with a click, King Shira's palm split open and blood splashed out. The domineering true chi even tore the mask on his face, revealing a ferocious and ugly face covered with scars and burned by fire. Mark of. No wonder you have to wear a mask, otherwise it would be really scary. Ling Feng said lightly. The other killers glanced at their boss and were quite surprised. It was also the first time that they saw the true face of King Shira. "Ling Feng, you deserve to die." King Shira became angry and his eyes turned scarlet. He rushed towards Ling Feng fiercely, and smashed out the spear in his hand. A strong evil aura accompanied the gun light, as if he had transformed into an evil dragon. When Ling Feng saw this, he didn't hide or evade. He focused his sword fingers and pointed out with his sword. Sonorous. After the impact of the gun and finger, both parties took a few steps back. Ling Feng glanced at the Shira king with slight surprise. The opponent's strength was not bad, and he was even stronger than Lao Qian Sheng. No wonder the Shira organization scares so many people. Also, the gun in the opponent's hand is extraordinary. The evil energy wrapped around it is astonishing, even more terrifying than the evil heart demon sword. That's obviously an emperor weapon. It's a bit interesting. Kill. King Shira gave a low shout, and the killers all around rushed forward. The key thing is that when they took action, they formed a powerful combined attack formation and surrounded Ling Feng. You know you are no match for me if you fight alone, so why do you use a formation? Ling Feng punched a killer. The killer was just an ordinary martial saint, and his punch was enough to kill the opponent. But under the influence of the formation, the strength of these people merged into one, and everyone's strength was gathered together, and they actually blocked the punch. Not only that, the moment they took action, it seemed that they contained thousands of martial arts, which were unpredictable, and their strength was doubled. Ling Feng, this Shira formation is infinitely mysterious. I specially prepared it for you. No one has ever survived under this formation, and you are no exception. Give me, die. King Shira sneered, taking advantage of Ling Feng being restrained by the formation. The gun in his hand kept blasting out. The gun was as powerful as a dragon, domineering and ferocious. At the same time, the piano demon on the other side was not idle either. He kept playing with the guqin with his 10 fingers, and the clanging sound turned into countless sharp blades and swept out, attacking Ling Feng. Chin, gun, formation. Triple killing move. Each level is enough to kill the top martial saint. If the 3 killing moves are used together, even the great saint will fall. Seeing this, Ling Feng smiled faintly, and the true qi in his body surged out wildly. A trace of fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. With the help of fighting heart, his fighting power increased rapidly. That's what makes it fun. Chaos Fist. Flying Immortal Sword Technique. Immortal King Dharmakaya. The true qi on Ling Feng is like a roaring wave, pounding the sky and the earth. Various emperor-level martial arts are constantly being displayed. The power of the fist shakes the sky, the sword energy splits the ground, and the tall immortal king's Dharma body is like a giant standing tall on the sky and the earth. The fists and palms come out together, and the void is turbulent. The Shira formation was crumbling under Ling Feng's repeated bombings. Each killer couldn't help but vomit blood. What's going on with this guy? So many emperor-level martial arts. Has the current emperor-level martial arts become a cabbage? Is this guy so perverted? The killers looked at Ling Feng with fear. Boom! The Shira formation suddenly exploded. One by one, the killers flew out like kites with broken strings. Ling Feng came to the piano demon, opened his fingers slightly, and pointed directly at the opponent's head. The opponent's face changed wildly, and the sound of the piano burst out, turning into a sharp blade, but Ling Feng slapped him and smashed it to pieces. This palm fell directly on the opponent's head. It explodes like a watermelon. Ling Feng took his piano and fiddled with it. The piano is good, I just want to try out the Tianlong Bayan that I just got recently. He was a little eager to try. When King Shira saw the tragic death of the piano demon, his expression became even more ugly. The sword demon, the stick demon, the fist demon. You 3 cooperate with me and kill him together. The 3 named killers, all martial saint, nodded, then rushed towards Ling Feng, attacking from 3 different directions. Ling Feng smiled calmly and strummed the strings. A clang. The sound of the piano was like a dragon's roar, suddenly resounding throughout the world. Magnificent sound waves, impacting out. The 3 killers flew backwards under this attack and looked at Ling Feng in shock. He actually knows sonic martial arts. The power of this piano sound is far superior to that of the piano demon. How many trump cards does this guy have? Ling Feng looked at the many killers with a smile, sitting cross-legged in the air, with the piano on his knees. This is my first time playing the piano, you are the first to listen, you should feel honored. Ling Feng played with the guqin he just got and looked at the killers in front of him with indifferent eyes. It was strange that he had never played the guqin before. But now, holding the newly acquired guqin, I feel a sense of familiarity. It felt like I had played it countless times. This is the piano playing skill that comes with Tianlong Bayan. Ling Feng smiled slightly and looked at everyone in front of him. Everyone, this is my first time playing the piano. Please forgive me if I don't play well. The killers were stunned for a moment. Is there any mistake? We are fighting to the death. Are you so polite? But the next moment, they couldn't complain, because Ling Feng had already started playing the guqin, accompanied by a clanging sound. The sound of the piano echoes like the roar of a dragon. The magnificent sound waves spread out instantly. Everyone felt like their eardrums were going to explode. But what was even more terrifying was the power of the sonic waves that hit them like an overwhelming force. The killers of Saint Realm who were weaker and less powerful exploded one after another. For a moment, flesh and blood flew everywhere, and blood rained down. The terrifying aura made everyone present tremble. No, interrupt him. King Shira reacted first and rushed towards Ling Feng with a gun. A spear thrust out, the spear glowed like a dragon. Ling Feng smiled slightly and sat cross-legged without moving. The sound of the piano suddenly became louder, and the sound waves formed an invisible air shield around him. King Shira's spear light was directly blocked. There is no way to get even close to him. What a terrifying Qin Dao cultivation. This person is so young, why did he have so many tricks up his sleeve? Monster. King Shira looked at Ling Feng with a hint of fear in his heart. I somewhat regret taking this order. The first note of Tianlong's 8 notes, the dragon breaks through thousands of mountains. Ling Feng smiled faintly, and the sound of the piano turned into a terrifying dragon shadow. Sweep the river with a stick. The stick demon held a long stick and slammed it down at Long Ying. But the long stick was knocked away, and he himself was blown away by the dragon shadow, spitting blood, and was directly killed by the sound wave that followed. The dignified martial saint was killed by the sound of a piano. The power of Tianlong Bayan is evident. The second tone of Tianlong, the dragon sings in the sky. The third tone of Tianlong, the dragon travels thousands of miles. Ling Feng continued to play. The sound of the piano transformed into a dragon shadow and kept attacking. As the sound of the piano was high or low, passionate or gentle, the dragon shadow's attacks were also different. It was unpredictable, making it impossible for people to guard against it. After a while, most of the killers were killed or injured. Only King Shira and 2 or 3 martial saints were left struggling to support him. The fourth tone of Tianlong, the hidden dragon goes out to sea. Roar. In the title sound of the piano, a dragon roar shook the 9 heavens, and a dragon shadow broke out of the ground, biting towards the sword demon. The opponent couldn't dodge and was killed on the spot. The fifth tone of Tianlong, the dragon fights in the wild. Sixth tone of Tianlong, dragon blood black and yellow. The power of Tianlong Bayan gradually increases. In the vast sky and earth, the music of the piano echoed for thousands of miles, the clouds rolled, only the shadow of the dragon was seen hovering, and half of the sky was dyed blood red. The clanging sound of the piano carries the murderous intent to the sky. The remaining martial saint killers fell with them. Only King Shira was left. The opponent was now frightened out of his wits and no longer had any fighting spirit. He glanced at Ling Feng in horror, turned around and ran away without saying a word. This song is not over yet. Why are you running away? The seventh tone of Tianlong, the dragon's roar changes the sky in a shocking way. As the sky surged, the color of the world changed, and the sound of the piano turned into a golden dragon shadow, rushing towards King Shira. King Shira roared low and fired a shot with all his strength. With a loud noise, the spear was blown away. And King Shira took the blow head on. It turned into a rain of blood and exploded on the spot. King Shira has fallen. The music gradually stopped. Ling Feng shook his head. This song has not been finished yet. He didn't expect that King Shira and others were worse than he thought. I couldn't even listen to the complete Tianlong Bayan. Far away, the sky-splitting sword master and others were stunned when they witnessed the battle. They originally wanted to go up and help, but when Ling Feng started playing the guqin, they were stunned. They never expected that the other person could play the guqin. Moreover, his cultivation level is so high that it is unimaginable. Even King Shira of the Great Saint Realm was easily killed. Really, I'm serious, is it possible that little friend Ling Feng is not from our world at all? He is an immortal descended from the earth. I think it's possible that it's true. Otherwise, how could he know so many things, and they all reach an extremely astonishing level? Sword, piano, medicine, boxing, he is good at all of them. Tisk, tisk, I'm not worried at all about the Six Nation Alliance's attack. On the contrary, I think they might be in trouble. Several people were talking about it. But at this time, suddenly there was a shaking sound outside the city. Then, the entire border shook, and the stones on the ground were rolling. It seemed like some huge beast was approaching. Several people focused their gazes and looked outside the city. The Six Nations allied forces are coming. Leave the city. Prepare to meet the enemy. Everyone rushed to the city wall. Ling Feng played the guqin and his eyes lit up. I haven't finished playing the Tianlong Bayan yet. So soon, there are new listeners. His figure flashed and he came to the city wall in the blink of an eye. The speed is so fast that it is several times faster than the sky-splitting sword master and others. The sky-splitting sword master and others rushed there as soon as they heard the commotion, but when they arrived, they saw Ling Feng waiting there for a long time. Regarding his speed, everyone was unexpected and not too shocked. After all, I was shocked too many times. They were suddenly somewhat immune. Even if Ling Feng said that he was Emperor Wu, they probably wouldn't be too shocked. Outside the city, thousands of densely packed troops came like a tide, and the Six-Nation Coalition army was vast, including dozens of mammoths as big as mountains. The giant elephant alone is not easy to deal with. Not to mention, there are countless masters hidden among the tens of millions of soldiers. On the city wall, countless soldiers held their weapons tightly, their eyes solemn. Although they were nervous, they did not take a step back. Behind them is their home and country. As soldiers, they cannot retreat. There is no way back. Among the coalition forces, Marshal Dachu frowned when he saw the closed city gate. What's going on? King Shira actually failed. In his expectation, once the assassination of King Shira was successful, the border gate would be opened instead of being closed as it is now. Obviously, King Shira was defeated. Ling Feng's strength is beyond imagination. What a waste. Marshal Dachu snorted, quite dissatisfied with King Shira, but when he looked at the tens of millions of troops under his command, he suddenly felt extremely proud in his heart. He firmly believes that no one in this world can stop such an army. People of Dazhou, listen. Open the city gate and surrender, and I will spare your life. Marshal Dachu said loudly. The sound is like rolling thunder, resounding across the border. Suddenly, a piano sound suddenly sounded. At the gate of the city, a figure in white walked out slowly holding a guqin. As he walked, he strummed the strings. It seems to be tuning. Marshal Dachu saw him and was a little curious. He is. Next to him, Lao Gansheng and other martial saints all showed fear. He is Ling Feng. He is Ling Feng. Lao Gansheng and the others looked at Ling Feng, and when they spoke, their voices were a little trembling, not like a well-informed martial saint at all. Upon seeing this, Marshal Dachu said calmly, Old Gansheng, calm down, he is just a young man, so what if his cultivation level is high? Under the tens of millions of troops, he will eventually turn into powder. No wonder Marshal Dachu underestimated Ling Feng. No way, the other person's appearance is really deceptive. He has a handsome appearance and a faint, spring-like smile on his face. He does not look like a terrifying devil who kills without blinking an eye. How could such a person be so scary? I thought this Ling Feng was so scary, with 3 heads and 6 arms, a green face and fangs, but I didn't expect that he looks so handsome. If such a person were placed in the capital of our great Chu kingdom, I'm afraid the ladies would have snatched him away and taken him home to be executed in front of him. Marshal Dachu chuckled. Immediately, he rode out of the formation, looked at Ling Feng opposite, and smiled slightly. Boy, what are you doing here holding the guqin? I came here with the piano in my arms, so naturally I came to play the piano. Really, it depends on how well you play. If you play well, maybe I will spare your life. Marshal Dachu said with a smile. Oh, I should be able to play it pretty well, but this piano doesn't belong to me, and I'm not very familiar with it yet. I have to tune it. Ling Feng also responded with a smile, holding the guqin, strumming the strings, and tuning it there, and being able to talk and laugh happily in front of tens of millions of troops. This courage has attracted people's attention. Marshal Dachu glanced at the guqin and recognized it at a glance. It was the guqin of the Qin demon. His eyes gradually turned cold. It seems that the Qin demon and King Shira are really dead. Boy, it was you who killed them. Yes, they wanted to kill me, so I killed them. How did you kill him? Use this piano. Using a harp. Are you kidding me? That harp is not an emperor weapon. How could it possibly kill King Shira and the others? Marshal Dachu asked with a frown. You haven't tried it, how do you know it's impossible? Boy, you said you wanted to play the piano. Right. It's a pity that I don't have the enthusiasm now. You are too weird, but no matter what, in the face of absolute power, you can't make any waves. Marshal Da Chu hummed, looking at Ling Feng, feeling uneasy in his heart. He didn't dare to let the other party continue to do anything. He raised his hand and said, "Charge." The words fall. The cavalry at the front of the tens of millions of troops rushed out immediately. The cavalry is riding a horse, holding a spear in hand, the horse's hooves are beating fast, and the spear is sharp. The soldiers on the horse have cold eyes, exuding cold and murderous intent. Ling Feng must be ground into powder. This is the elite cavalry from the 6 dynasties. Each one is a master in his own right. This cavalry, numbering hundreds of thousands, is enough to sweep across the world. No matter how powerful the martial artist is, if he is surrounded by them, he will only die. Not to mention, behind these hundreds of thousands of cavalry, there are tens of millions of troops. But facing them at this moment was just a young man in white clothes holding Qin in his arms. The opponent is still sitting there, playing the strings, and the cavalry charges, kicking up billowing sand and dust, and the evil spirit is pressing, and the distance to Ling Feng is getting closer and closer. But he still had no fear and was tuning his tune as if he were in a leisurely countryside rather than a cruel and solemn battlefield. The hundreds of thousands of cavalry charging towards him were ignored by him like air. Everyone was staring at him. Especially the cavalry, their eyes became colder and colder. They feel ignored and annoyed. Marshal Da Chu was also staring at Ling Feng. Beside him, several generals looked at Ling Feng. One of them said disdainfully, "Is this man scared to death? He just sits there waiting to be crushed into powder. How ridiculous." Quote, "No, he is very calm. His tuning hand is very steady. It is impossible for a frightened martial artist to have such a steady hand." Lao Gansheng shook his head and said. He felt that the other party must have something to rely on. 100 feet, 50 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet. The cavalry were getting closer and closer to Ling Feng. The cavalry at the front had already raised his spear, preparing to pierce the young man in front of him. But at this moment, Ling Feng also finished tuning. "Oh, it's done." He smiled and plucked the strings. Just when the spear of the cavalry at the front was about to pierce him. A clang, magnificent sonic explosion. The spear disintegrated and shattered inch by inch. The cavalry at the front seemed to be hit head-on by a flash flood and tsunami. They all flew backwards, vomiting blood in the air, and some even turned into blood mist and exploded. Broken arms and limbs, blood raining everywhere. Under the majestic sound waves, more than half of the hundreds of thousands of cavalry were killed or injured. In the blink of an eye, it is a scene of hell on earth that is unbearable to look at. "Everyone, please listen to my song." Ling Feng smiled faintly, moved his fingers, and the sound of the piano poured out. Tianlong Bayan explodes with shocking power. Dragon chants echoed throughout the world. From the first tone of Tianlong to the 7th tone, dragon shadows circled out, rampaging on the battlefield, and hundreds of thousands of cavalry collapsed. And the tens of millions of troops behind them fell into chaos and collapsed. When Marshal Da Chu saw Ling Feng's strength for the first time, his pupils shrank and he was shocked. He finally understood why Lao Gansheng and others were so afraid of him. I also understand why the assassination attempt by King Shira and others failed. It turns out that everything he said is true. King Shira and others were really killed by him with his harp. Watching the tens of millions of troops constantly disintegrating and collapsing under the sound of the piano. Countless soldiers gradually died. Marshal Da Chu couldn't sit still and roared angrily, "All Venerable Level and other martial artists, come to me and kill this guy at all costs." In the army, martial artists took action one by one. They swarmed toward Ling Feng like locusts. But Ling Feng sat there, playing the guqin with his 10 fingers, his eyes slightly closed, as if he was immersed in the world of music, and the invisible sound of the piano turned into a protective wall of air around him. An ordinary martial artist would be directly crushed if he got close. Even Martial Saint has no way to start. This boy's strength is even stronger than during the 7 Dynasties conference. How did he practice? Lao Gansheng and others felt their scalps numb and their hearts were horrified. Other people's practice is accumulated over time, little by little, and slowly progresses. But Ling Feng is totally unreasonable. The improvement of strength is like riding a rocket, traveling thousands of miles every day. Others are making progress, and it's more like he's evolving. Such a thing can happen in this world. Lao Gansheng kept taking action, and the strength of the great saint realm exploded to the extreme, but he still could not break through the Qinyan Qi wall around Ling Feng. At this time, Marshal Da Chu roared angrily, took a step forward, and a bloody sword appeared in his hand. It was Da Chu Emperor weapon, Blood God Slash. Old Gan Sheng, why don't you take out your Emperor weapon? Marshal Da Chu roared angrily. Lao Gansheng took a deep breath, raised his hand and grabbed it in the void, and a golden axe appeared. The moment he held the axe, his breath surged. Ling Feng, take my axe. Lao Gansheng roared angrily and slashed down with his golden axe. Marshal Da Chu also followed closely behind. Two great emperor soldiers attacked Ling Feng together with great power. Seeing this, Ling Feng raised the corner of his mouth slightly. The eighth tone of Tianlong, the dragon god dominates the world. The eighth tone of Tianlong, the dragon god dominates the world. Facing the two great emperor soldiers' attack, Ling Feng did not retreat or evade, with a leisurely expression. A thought came to my mind. He picked up the strings with his fingers and plucked them suddenly. In an instant, a magnificent sound wave erupted with a high-pitched dragon roar, turning into a mighty force that soared to the sky and struck the earth. The attacks of the two emperor weapons fell on this sound wave, causing strong vibrations. The two powerful men holding the emperor weapon were even more shocked. After receiving an unprecedented impact, his face changed wildly, and the next second he flew out like a kite with a broken string. The two powerful men held emperor weapon in their hands, but they were both vomiting blood. Even two emperor weapons can't do anything to him. His strength is much more terrifying than imagined. What kind of bad luck did Dazhou have to have such a monster? I don't know, this guy is too unreasonable. The two great saints looked at Ling Feng with fear in their eyes. At this time, Ling Feng stopped playing the piano, stood up slowly, and then put his hand on Qixing Longyuan at his waist. Okay, Tianlong Bayan has been played. Next, it's time for you to take a look. Look at my sword. The words fall. Ling Feng slowly pulled out Qixing Longyuan. The long sword was only half drawn out, but the cold sword light already made the martial saints present shudder and their scalps tingle. No, that's Emperor weapon. He also has the Emperor weapon. Everyone exclaimed, and some of the timid ones even turned around and ran away. Ling Feng without the Emperor weapon was already able to easily overwhelm the great saint with the Emperor weapon. Now with the Emperor weapon, his combat power is unimaginable. Flying immortal sword technique. Ling Feng smiled faintly and raised his hand. The sword energy is flying, like the arrival of an immortal, ethereal and unpredictable. And these sword energy seems to have spirituality, and it is actually locked to the strong men at the venerable level or above. The sword energy passed through their bodies and split them into two. In the blink of an eye, dozens or hundreds of warriors died unexpectedly. You know, no matter where he is, a strong martial artist is respected by thousands of people, but now, he is easily killed by Ling Feng with one sword. How terrifying is Ling Feng's combat power? One can imagine. At this moment, everyone on the battlefield looked at him, no longer as if they were looking at a person, but as if they were looking at a god. A demonic god. Escape. Lao Gansheng left without saying a word. He has seen that even with the Emperor weapon, they are no match. Now, the only option is to escape. But Ling Feng, how could he let them leave so easily? Come when you want and leave when you want. Do you really think this is your back garden? Ling Feng smiled lightly. The figure flashed as fast as a ghost. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Lao Qiansheng. I spared your life before, but now you are looking for death. If this is the case, then you can't blame me. After saying that, he slashed with his sword. Buzz. The sword energy is like a rainbow. Lao Gansheng took out the golden axe and tried to resist. But with a clang, the axe flew out, and Lao Qinsheng's whole body was like a meteor falling to the ground, hitting the ground directly. There was a loud bang and the ground sank directly. Ling Feng smiled slightly and slashed out with his sword again. This time, without the Emperor weapon, Lao Gansheng was no match at all. He was decapitated with just one sword and died. And the Marshal of Chu, who was holding the blood god Slash, knew that there was no hope of escape, so he roared and raised true qi to the extreme. Faintly, a layer of red true qi burned on his body. He is here, burning his longevity. This is a life-threatening style of play. Ling Feng, I will fight with you. After saying that, Marshal Dachu slashed at Ling Feng with his sword. The human sword merged into one, turning into a blood-red sword shadow. Ling Feng raised Long Yuan high and slashed down. In an instant, the infinite sword intent spread out, pointing at all things, using all things in the world as a sword. The two sword energies collided in the air and then separated. Ling Feng was unscathed. On the other hand, Marshal Dachu's chest had been pierced with a huge blood hole. He looked down and coughed out blood. Ling Feng, don't be proud. Dachu, still have a trump card. After Marshal Dachu finished speaking, he fell to the ground with a thud. He died with extreme unwillingness and resentment. Ling Feng smiled lightly. Do you still have any trump cards? Then I really want to see them, but it's just a trip to Dachu. After saying that, he rose into the sky, looked at the soldiers in front of him, and said in a voice like rolling thunder, the generals and top experts of the Six-Nation Coalition have all died under my sword. The remaining ones will not be killed if they surrender. The sound spread across the battlefield. Everyone had been frightened by Ling Feng's fighting power for a long time, and their faces turned pale. They had no intention of fighting in their hearts. Now that they heard this, they had no intention of continuing the fight. Surrender, we surrender. Some people laid down their weapons and declared surrender. And like a domino effect, after one person surrendered, the others did not continue to hold on and dropped their weapons one after another. I'm done with it. We also voted, we didn't want to die. The marshal is dead. If we continue to fight, we will only increase casualties. With only one person in the Great Zhou dynasty, he completely defeated the Six-Nation Coalition. If we send some more people, we will be able to defeat the stone with an egg. Without the backbone, the so-called Six-Nation Alliance is just a ragtag group of people, unable to make any trouble at all. Plus Ling Feng's terrifying strength is in front of him. They had no choice at all. In this way, the Six Nations allied forces were completely defeated. On the border city wall, the sky-splitting sword master and others witnessed all this, and besides being shocked, they only felt admiration in their hearts. I'm tired of saying these 6 words, Ling Feng Xiaoyu Niapi. Little friend Ling Feng, you are truly a god. Send someone to deal with the aftermath and let little friend Ling Feng come back and have a good rest. Tisk, tisk, the danger of these 6 countries was solved by just one person, Ling Feng. You are awesome. I have never admired a person so much. Soon, sky-splitting sword master and others sent people out of the city. Deal with the aftermath of the defeated general. After Ling Feng returned to the city, he was greeted by countless soldiers and the people looked at him with respect. Before he could say anything, everyone knelt on the ground. Thank you Ling Feng Martial Saint for taking action and saving me Dajo. Without Ling Feng Martial Saint, the consequences would be disastrous. Ling Feng Martial Saint, we will set up a longevity tablet for you at home, and we will pray for you every day from now on. Ling Feng Martial Saint, I want to give birth to a monkey for you. Everyone talked about their gratitude. There seemed to be some strange remarks mixed in. Ling Feng didn't care either. After dealing with everyone, he found a mansion in the city and simply rested for a while. Ding. Closing square bracket. The host single-handedly resisted tens of millions of troops and saved the Great Zhou dynasty from fire and water. It was like a god descending to earth. Closing square bracket. Reward the host, a mysterious gift package. Closing square bracket. Mysterious gift package. It was the first time Ling Feng received such a reward, and he was a little curious. I wonder what good things this gift bag contains. The host can enable it and give it a try. Then let's go. The mysterious gift package is opening. Congratulations to the host for receiving 1 million supreme grade spiritual stones. Lingxi, this thing is just a series of numbers to him. Not worth mentioning anymore. Congratulations to the host for receiving 1000 tendon cleansing and marrow removing pills. Muscle cleansing and marrow removing pill. This thing is good. Although he can't use it himself, he can take it back and give it to the disciples of White Cloud sect to improve their bones. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the magic clairvoyance. Closing square bracket. Clairvoyance. As the name suggests, can you see a spell 1,000 miles away? Nice one. Ling Feng's eyes lit up and he was quite satisfied with this spell. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Emperor weapon Tianlong Bow. Tianlong Bow. Coupled with the clairvoyance, are you planning to let him change his career to become an archer? Looks good too. As the saying goes, archers have always been weak since ancient times. No one is bad at using bows and arrows. Congratulations to the host for getting a Heart of the Sun shooting emperor. There is still one. Shoot the Japanese emperor's heart. What the hell is this? Ling Feng was a little confused. The mysterious gift package gave him 5 rewards in a row. Each one was enough to cause a bloody storm in the outside world, and countless people fought for it. Let's not talk about the spiritual stone and the tendon cleansing and marrow removing elixir. The clairvoyance at the back, the heavenly dragon bow, and the sun shooting emperor's heart aroused his interest, and he couldn't help but feel a little curious. He first used clairvoyance. Suddenly, his sight transmigrated through the clouds and he actually saw a scene thousands of miles away. In a city, it was bustling with people coming and going. Not bad, not bad. It would be even better if it is paired with Shunfeng. Ling Feng smiled slightly and was very satisfied with the reward. Ding. Closing square bracket. Congratulations to the host for getting Shunfeng. Ling Feng was stunned for a moment. What happened? Where does this reward come from? The mysterious gift package was not opened just now. This is what is left. Not finished yet. Is your gift package still delayed? The corners of Ling Feng's mouth twitched slightly. Well, you said you wanted to be happy and you were lucky, but you still have an excuse to say that the gift pack has not been opened yet. Do you think I would believe it? Ling Feng absolutely loves this system. As soon as Shunfeng was used, Ling Feng suddenly heard countless chaotic sounds coming from all directions, the sound of wind, human voices, animal sounds. There were more discussions. Now in the city, countless people are talking about the war that happened not long ago. Everyone looked in awe when mentioning Ling Feng. Ling Feng smiled slightly. In fact, he was not very interested in prestige and fame. These were just accessories to his strength. Clairvoyance, ears to the wind. Spells from myths and legends. After possessing these 2 abilities, Ling Feng felt that as long as he thought about it, nothing within thousands of miles could be hidden from him. This ability is really useful. Then he started looking at the 2 remaining rewards. They are the heavenly dragon bow, which shoots the Sun Emperor's heart. The Tianlong bow is easy to understand, it is the Emperor weapon. But Ling Feng was a little confused about shooting the heart of the Sun Emperor, but judging from the name, this thing should be related to the Great Emperor. The Emperor's heart is the essence of the martial Tao of the martial Emperor. Only by condensing the Emperor's heart can one be crowned Emperor. The Emperor's heart of shooting the sun is the essence of the martial Tao of a great Emperor of archery. If the host refines it, it will not become a great archery Emperor, but he can also become the top being in the archery, and he will become Emperor in the future, which is certain. Closing square bracket. The system explained. Ling Feng suddenly realized that he originally wanted to become Emperor with swordsmanship, but now he has Kyudo first, so it doesn't matter. So he asked someone to arrange a secluded place for him. Start refining the heart of the shooting Sun Emperor. Refining the Emperor's heart requires understanding. The higher the understanding, the better the effect. And Ling Feng has transcendent level understanding, and his understanding is simply the best in the world. It didn't take a few days. The heart of the shooting Sun Emperor was completely refined by him, without any waste. This day, in the border city, the people and soldiers were busy doing their own thing. After that war, the border is now much calmer. Everyone is grateful to King Ling Feng. Everyone knows that that battle was earth-shattering. King Ling Feng must have consumed a lot of strength and was recovering at this time. So everyone was wise enough not to disturb him. The sky-splitting sword saint, the wine saint, and Feng Zhengyang even took the initiative to protect Ling Feng outside his retreat residence. I hope everything is well with little friend Ling Feng. In that battle, everything seemed normal to him, but in fact, he must have consumed a lot of energy. After all, no matter how strong a person is against an army of tens of millions, he can't hold it back. The reason why he didn't follow as he said, he must be afraid that we will worry, little friend Ling Feng is really gentle and strong. Li Zinshu said with emotion. The rest of the people also agreed. When the ruthless swordsman heard this, he thought of Ling Feng's voice and appearance, his heart trembled slightly, and his iceberg-like face had a tendency to melt. The sky-splitting sword master saw it from the side and couldn't help but smile. What? It seems that the ruthless sword master is attracted to little friend Ling Feng. The cruel sword sage's expression gradually returned to coldness, and he said calmly, "A little, but I will kill this little heartbeat." The sky-splitting sword master expressed his understanding. The ruthless sword master practices the ruthless sword way. You must not be emotional, otherwise your cultivation will be affected, which will be really difficult. Although the combat power of Wuxing Dao is far better than that of other martial Dao, it is too contrary to human nature not to be emotional. What's the point of training yourself into a piece of ice? In my opinion, why don't you change to other martial arts? Learn. Li Zinshu persuaded from the side. The ruthless sword saint shook his head. It's not that easy. Besides, I've been practicing the ruthless sword for so many years and I'm used to it. I just didn't expect to encounter such a variable as Ling Feng. I should be fine if I stay away from him in the future. I hope so. Several people were talking. Right now, a strange fluctuation suddenly spread. Several martial saints felt their hearts trembling, looking at the residence where Ling Feng was retreating, with a hint of strong shock in their eyes. Could this breath be? There is absolutely no way to go wrong. This is Great Emperor pressure. Suddenly, in the mansion where Ling Feng retreated, a golden beam of light rose into the sky and penetrated the clouds. In an instant, the clouds surged and a golden figure emerged. This figure is as big as a mountain, standing tall against the sky, holding a long bow, with the bow and arrows drawn, and the divine light all over his body, overwhelming the 9 heavens and 10 earth. It seemed as if he was about to shoot down the sun from the sky with an arrow. The strong pressure of the great emperor spread out, covering the entire city. Everyone looked at the figure with deep awe in their eyes. Is this a god descending to earth? Oh my god, this is definitely a god. God, please accept my worship. Wait. Why does this god look familiar? Isn't this side by side King Ling Feng? It's really him. It's real. King Bingzhan is really a god. Not just ordinary people. Even the great saint-level powerhouses like the sky-splitting sword master were full of shock at this moment. They had vaguely guessed something. This kind of vision, little friend Ling Feng has become the emperor. How old is he? They knew that Ling Feng would most likely become emperor in the future, but they never imagined that it would be now. How old is he this year? Ling Feng became emperor. At this point, the sky-splitting sword master and others were not surprised. What shocked them was that the other party actually became emperor at such a young age. This is really an exaggeration. The most important is this aura of the emperor's way. This is not the way of swordsmanship, boxing, and piano. This vision is clearly the way of bow and arrow. The sky-splitting sword master and others took a breath of air and looked at each other, seeing the disbelief in each other's eyes. No matter whether Ling Feng becomes the emperor with his kendo or musical instrument, they will not be surprised. After all, Ling Feng has an excellent record on these martial Dao. But the way of bow and arrow. They have never seen Ling Feng perform it before. Why did martial Dao become the emperor? Does the other party have secrets that they don't know? Within the mansion, Ling Feng slowly opened his eyes, feeling the surging power in his body, and a smile appeared on his lips. Shooting the Sun Emperor's heart is really useful. Logically speaking, even with an emperor's heart, it is unlikely that someone can become an emperor directly. After all, no matter how good the emperor's heart is, it is also the way of the martial emperor that others can learn from, but if you want to become an emperor, you still need to find your own way. But Ling Feng is different. His understanding is too terrifying. He fully understood all the martial Dao experiences, insights, and martial arts in Emperor shooting the sun's heart, as if he had walked directly on the road to becoming an emperor. Others' martial Dao is his martial Dao. Therefore, he became emperor directly. It turns out that becoming an emperor is so easy, all you need is an emperor's heart. Ling Feng muttered. If others heard what he said, they would definitely be jealous to death. It is extremely difficult for someone else to become an emperor. Even if I spend my whole life, there is no hope. But he succeeded easily. Ling Feng gradually calmed down his aura, and the majestic pressure of the great emperor also gradually subsided, and then stood up and walked out of the mansion. Outside the mansion, sky-splitting sword master and others had been waiting for a long time. Ling Feng was not surprised by their appearance. He has clairvoyance and ears for the wind. He knew exactly what these people were doing. Of course, Ling Feng didn't have the habit of spying on others, but since he had just become emperor, he seemed to have caused quite a stir. So he used his clairvoyance and his ears to check his surroundings and breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that there was no accidental damage or anything like that. Little friend Ling Feng, have you become emperor? The sky-splitting sword master looked at Ling Feng with fiery eyes. Ling Feng nodded. Well, I made a breakthrough by luck. Little friend Ling Feng, please stop being modest. You have become the martial emperor at such a young age. Not to mention in the great Zhou dynasty, even if you are placed in the sky world, you are the only one. How can this be explained by a fluke? Yes, little friend Ling Feng's talent is truly unheard of. Everyone looked at Ling Feng with envy and admiration. Li Zinshu chuckled and said, Little friend Ling Feng, can you tell us how you became emperor? Do you have any experience? Please give me some advice. Everyone's eyes lit up and they looked at Ling Feng expectantly. Don't take it seriously as a pointer, just treat it as a discussion with each other. Ling Feng smiled. Then, he, Sky Splitter Sword Master and others began to discuss martial Dao. In the process, he imparted some of his experience to others. After refining the emperor's heart, his current experience is that of a great emperor. The Sky-Splitting Sword Master and others all benefited greatly. By the way, Sky-Splitting Sword Master, I plan to visit Dachu. At this time, Ling Feng smiled slightly. After hearing this, Sky-Splitting Sword Master and others also guessed what he wanted to do. It's rude to come and not reciprocate. The 6 great dynasties have bullied me, the great Zhou dynasty, and I should give it back. Haha, little friend Ling Feng has become the emperor now, who else can resist? Not bad. Let them know how awesome my little friend is. Ling Feng smiled slightly and looked in the direction of Dachu in the distance with a little expectation. Marshal Dachu said before he died. Dachu still has a trump card. He wanted to see what the trump card was. Inside the Dachu Imperial Palace. After King Chu heard the news of the defeat on the front line, his face turned pale with fright and he slumped down on the dragon chair with disbelief on his face. If you lose, how can you lose? That is the 6 Nations Alliance army. They are the elites of the 6 dynasties. There are tens of millions of troops. How could they lose to a big Zhou dynasty? Da Zhou Ling Feng. How could there be such a terrifying existence in this world? Could it be that he has already become the emperor? King Chu murmured, looking stunned. At this time, Chu Tianba came out and said, Your Majesty, please calm down. So what if his great Zhou has a martial emperor? I have one in great Chu too. This time the 6 nations went on an expedition, but he did not go. This allowed him to escape. What the third brother said is, Your Majesty, it's the ancient ruins we discovered 30 years ago. The sword demon sealed inside is our hope for a comeback. During this period, Firebeard has been refining the sword of 10,000 demons. The sword can activate the sword demon's power and help him break through the seal. I think the result will come soon. Chu Tianba said, Your Majesty, it's successful, I'm successful. Firebeard, who had broken his arms, rushed into the hall, his face full of excitement. Hearing his words, Chu Tianba's eyes lit up, take us there quickly. Good. Huo Beard took Chu Tianba, the king of Chu, to the sword-making house in the palace. And here, a huge blood pool exudes bursts of bloody air, and a black magic sword stands in it. This magic sword is covered with blood-colored veins. These veins are shimmering and even beating like a human pulse. Every time it beats, the blood in the blood pool will be swallowed up. I have been looking forward to this moment since the moment I got the secret book of forging the sword of all demons, and now, I finally succeeded. This sword must be the strongest magic sword in the world. No weapon in this world can compare with it. Firebird's eyes were red with excitement. King Chu looked at the blood pool and couldn't help but swallowed. How many lives did it take to create such a bloody smell? Your Majesty, there are a total of 1,873,600 people. Firebeard said. After hearing this number, King Chu was also startled and sighed. In order to forge this sword, we sacrificed too much. It's all worth it. King Chu nodded and glanced at Chu Tianba. The other party understood it, grabbed Firebird's neck, and said coldly, Firebeard, you made swords behind our backs in private, and killed countless innocent people. You committed a heinous crime. Now, I will punish you on the spot. You. Firebird's face changed wildly, knowing that he had been abandoned. The other party has been using himself to make swords. Once they succeeded in forging the sword, they would count those who died while forging the sword on themselves, and King Chu and Chu Tianba would be able to ignore them completely. They are royalty after all. Forging this sword and killing so many people, spreading the word would damage the reputation. You will not die well. Firebeard cursed, and then Chu Tianba pinched his neck. Then, Chu Tianba looked at the sword of 10,000 demons and said with fiery eyes, "Take this sword now and go to release the sword demon. As long as the sword demon takes action, we are not afraid even if it is the martial emperor." Da Chu. An ancient ruin exudes a dense demonic aura, and a cold and damp atmosphere spreads throughout the ruins, making everyone who steps here feel shuddering. And today, the demonic energy in the ruins seemed to sense something, and it began to stir and boil, and bursts of sword chants came from the ruins. Buzz. Suddenly, in the sky above the ruins, countless golden lines emerged, forming a golden rune seal that suppressed the dense demonic energy. Outside the ruins, several figures arrived. One of them was Chu Tianba, who was holding a magic sword. He looked at the ruins, smiled slightly, and then threw the magic sword in his hand with all his strength. The magic sword shot out of the sky like a black meteor. Passing through the seal in the blink of an eye, he landed within the ruins. In an instant, the infinite demonic energy gathered in the direction of the demonic sword, gradually condensing into a terrifying figure wearing a black robe. The other party held the magic sword and let out a sharp and harsh laugh. Jehiegi. Devil sword, someone actually helped me forge the sword of all demons. Okay, if that's the case, it's time to break the seal. After saying that, the figure suddenly slashed towards the sky. The powerful black sword energy spread across like a mountain range. It hit the seal with a bang, accompanied by a loud noise. Seal, broken. The heavenly demon chi surged out from the ruins and enveloped the world. Chu Tianba and others were also enveloped by this demonic chi, feeling their scalps numb and chills all over their bodies. This devilish energy, it's really scary. As expected of the martial emperor from 3,000 years ago, he is truly terrifying. Chu Tianba swallowed his saliva and said. Then he knelt on the ground respectfully. Beside him, King Chu frowned. As the king of a country, he didn't want to kneel down. But then, he accidentally glanced at the sword demon, and those scarlet eyes made him feel fear involuntarily. His body trembled, and then he knelt on the ground. I've seen the sword demon. Alas, several people saluted respectfully. The surrounding demonic energy gradually gathered towards the sword demon, and then an old man in black robe appeared. He was holding the sword of 10,000 demons and his eyes were glowing red. For the sake of you forging the sword of all demons and lifting my seal, I can satisfy you on one condition. Tell me. The sword demon said calmly. Very good. Back to sword demon, we want to attack Dazhou and kill Ling Feng. Chu Tianba said quickly. Boom. A powerful demonic aura erupted from the sword demon, and he said with cold eyes, did you just say Ling Feng? That young prodigy of Dazhou, Ling Feng. Exactly. Jia. Okay, before I was sealed, I left behind an evil demon sword. I wanted to use this sword to help me break the seal, but I didn't expect that it was destroyed by that kid Ling Feng in the middle. The sword was destroyed. Unexpectedly, the first thing to do after breaking the seal was to deal with it. It's really great. The sword demon laughed and said, you don't need to mention it, I will kill him too. It seems that we have a common enemy with the sword demon. I promise that if we can dominate the world, we are willing to divide half of the sword demon. King Chu generously promised. The sword demon was dismissive. What is the use of your kingdom? What I want is to break the limits of this world and become an immortal. Once you become an immortal, you can live a long and happy life. This is nothing compared to what you have. There are many more kingdoms. Can Martial Dao really become an immortal? King Chu said with fiery eyes. Everyone wants to live forever, especially emperors. Ascension to immortality is, of course, true, but an unknown war took place 10,000 years ago, which cut off the road to immortality. Since then, no one in the firmament world can ascension, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth has also been lost. There are fewer and fewer, and in the past 1,000 years, there has been no emperor marshal in the world, which is really sad. The sword demon shook his head. In fact, although he dreams of ascension, becoming an immortal, he doesn't know how to do it. We can only take one step at a time. But for now, let's put aside the ascension matter. What he has to do now is revenge. Where is Ling Feng now? Dojo, border. Okay, I have just broken through the seal now. After I rest for 2 days, I will go to dojo. At that time, I will not only let him die, but also let the entire dojo be destroyed with him. Use the blood of the people of dojo to nourish the sword of all demons. The sword demon said coldly, and then stabbed the ground with his sword. In an instant, among the ruins, 4 strands of black energy burst out of the ground. These 4 strands of black energy transformed into 4 figures, each of them exuding a terrifying aura. Compared to Emperor Wu, he was only a hair away. 4 great demon saints under the command of the sword demon. Chu Tianba exclaimed, "Oh, I have some sense." The sword demon glanced at Chu Tianba unexpectedly. "I have admired the sword demon for a long time. I have been studying the classics related to the sword demon. I know that the sword demon has 4 powerful assistants, namely the 4 great demon saints in the southeast, northwest and northwest. Each of them is second only to the martial emperor. Yes, these 4 people made a soul contract with me. As long as I don't die, they will not die. That's why they were sealed here with me. Now that I see the light of day again, it's time for the 4 of them to let this world know the sword again." The demon is so scary. Sword demon said calmly and glanced at the 4 great demon saints. The 4 people also had cold eyes, and one of them said coldly, "Master, we already know what you just said. Let us deal with Ling Feng. If he dares to be the enemy of the master, we will definitely make him worse. Die. Don't worry about this, you can go back with me to regain your strength. If you don't mind it, how about you come to my palace to rest?" King Chu said, trying to win over the sword demon and others. Good. The sword demon nodded and did not refuse. Several people followed King Chu back to the palace. Wherever he went, the demonic aura spread out unscrupulously. When he arrived at the palace, everyone in the palace trembled. Soon, 2 days passed. King Chu suddenly regretted releasing the sword demon. The other party is really too arrogant. He didn't take him seriously at all, occupying his palace and treating himself as his own territory. The 4 great demon saints under his command also committed evil in the capital, making the people miserable and complaining. There was even a demon saint who occupied his harem, treating his concubines as objects of pleasure. He didn't give him the face of King Chu at all. King Chu was so angry that he almost vomited blood. How can I find some helpers here? This is more difficult to serve than finding a few ancestors. If this continues, before we have finished dealing with Dazhou, my palace will be completely destroyed by the sword demon and the demon saint under his command. King Chu said angrily, "Your Majesty, please be patient for a while. After Dazhou and Ling Feng are dealt with, I will definitely find a way to get them away." Chu Tianba quickly comforted him. At this time, a soldier came to the king of Chu Tianba, and said, "Reporting to your Majesty, a spy came to report that Ling Feng was found on the way to the royal capital." What? He actually came to the capital? King Chu's expression changed slightly. "Ha ha ha, you came just in time to save us from looking for him." At this time, the demon saint of the east under the sword demon walked in front of the king of Chu with a concubine in his arms. After hearing the soldier's words, his eyes lit up. Chapter 91. The demon saint of the east unscrupulously walked into the hall with his arms around King Chu's concubine, with a rich smile on his face. When the soldier next to him saw this, he couldn't help but shouted coldly, how dare you be so presumptuous?" Boom. Before the soldier finished speaking, his body exploded. How dare an ant dare to be so presumptuous? The demon saint of the east snorted. The king of Chu next to him, Chu Tianba, saw the soldiers being killed and didn't dare to let go. The strength of this demon saint was too strong. Not to mention that there is a sword demon behind the opponent. Okay, I'm going to deal with that Ling Feng. As for this fool, I'll give it back to you. The demon saint of the east pushed the woman in his arms to the ground. Then he walked out of the palace laughing. His Majesty. The concubine shed tears sadly and looked at the king of Chu aggrievedly. King Chu slapped the opponent directly and flew him away. Upon closer inspection, he could see that the other party was vomiting blood and was already dead. Chu Tianba looked at the king of Chu who only dared to attack his own people. He sighed in his heart and felt that the future of Chu was dark. And at this time, far away, Ling Feng is flying towards the capital of Da Chu. He was very fast. He set out in the morning and arrived at Da Chu at noon. This was the result of not rushing with all his strength. Along the way, we took our time and had time to take in the surrounding scenery. Even so, not far ahead is the royal capital. With his clairvoyance and open ears, he observed the situation in the capital of Chu. Oh, how sad. I didn't expect that His Majesty actually released the sword demon. Now this sword demon and the 4 great demon saints under his command have occupied the palace. What should we do? Yeah, I don't think you have to wait for Da Zhou to call. In Da Chu's current situation, just wait for him to collapse. I didn't expect that I, Da Chu, would end up in such a situation. Various sights and comments entered Ling Feng's eyes and ears. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes. Sword demon. It seems that this guy is the trump card that Marshal Da Chu said. It's interesting. Suddenly, he saw a figure walking out of the palace. It was the demon saint of the east that everyone said. He was emitting torrential demonic energy, rising into the sky, and was about to fly in his direction. Ling Feng, I'm here to kill you. The demon saint of the east grinned. Ling Feng, who was thousands of miles away, was silent, then took out the Tianlong bow with an expressionless face, opened the bow and pulled the string, and the true qi surged out. In an instant, the black bowstring seemed to be tightened and twisted like dragon tendons, and an arrow made of true qi suddenly appeared. Then, with a whooshing sound, it was like a meteor streaking across the sky and passing through the clouds. We arrived at the palace in the blink of an eye. The demon saint of the east, who was about to attack Ling Feng, seemed to sense something, and his expression changed. This kind of aura is not good. His pupils shrank, and there was an unprecedented look of fear in his eyes. Then he pressed with 5 fingers to increase the strength to the extreme. Punch out. The fist force surged out along with the demonic energy, hitting the arrows that were shooting straight, but it was of no use. The demonic energy of the fist was torn apart instantly, and the arrow was unstoppable and penetrated the chest of the demon saint of the east. The huge impact force carried his body and flew out continuously, smashing the palace walls, and then he was nailed to the palace. On the main hall door. Tick-tock tick, blood continued to drip down the body of the demon saint of the east. Soon, at this moment, his eyes were widened, but he was not breathing. But, he will never die with his eyes in peace. King Chu and Chu Tianba heard the noise and immediately rushed out to check. When they saw the demon saint of the east nailed to the palace door, they couldn't help but gasp, how is this possible? This demon saint of the east is extremely powerful. Second only to Emperor Wu. Didn't expect that he would be killed by an arrow now. Where did the arrow come from? What is going on? King Chu Tianba asked quickly. One of the martial artists hesitated and said, that arrow seems to have been shot from thousands of miles away. We can't see anyone. Are you kidding? An arrow shot from thousands of miles away can kill the demon saint of the east in one fell swoop. How is such a thing possible? King Chu Tianba couldn't believe it. Whizzing. At this time, 3 more figures appeared. It was the other 3 demon saints under the sword demon. When they looked at the demon saint of the east who was nailed to the palace door, their faces were full of gloom. Who did it? The demon saint of the west said with a cold face. It should be Ling Feng. Chu Tianba said. Where are they? Like thousands of miles away. What? Is this person still a martial saint who specializes in archery? The demon saint of the west was a little surprised. No, it's not just the martial saint. If you can kill the demon saint of the east with 1 arrow, I'm afraid. The demon saint of the south looked solemnly. His next words were not spoken. But everyone knows those 2 words he wants to say. Emperor Wu. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How come there is such a young emperor marshal in this world? Chu Tianba didn't want to believe it. Let's go. Go meet him. The demon saint of the south said coldly. No, be careful. At this time, the demon saint of the west's expression changed. I saw another arrow flying from the distance, piercing through the chest of the demon saint of the south like lightning, and also nailed him to the palace door. Whizzing. A sound broke through the air. The remaining 2 demon saints still wanted to dodge, but their speed was far slower than the bows and arrows. The moment they were exposed, the outcome was doomed. Arrows hit them one after another and nailed them to the palace gate. The 4 demon saints, neatly arranged, formed a single word on the palace gate. Chu Tianba and King Chu were confused. The helper they had tried so hard to find was actually shot dead by Ling Feng. They feel as if their efforts have become a joke. Look, he's coming. At this time, someone exclaimed. I saw a figure slowly descending among the clouds. Dressed in white like snow, with a transcendent temperament, holding a golden long bow, he looks like an arrow god. His steps are light, but the earth cannot bear it. The moment his toes touched the ground, an extremely violent true qi spread around him, like a violent surge, shaking the entire palace and even the entire royal capital. Boom, boom, boom. There seemed to be an earthquake in the capital. Houses collapsed, the ground cracked, and sand flew. The royal palace, in particular, was the first to bear the brunt and was directly reduced to ruins. None of the martial artists could stand in front of Ling Feng. They all lay on the ground under the pressure, unable to move. Just coming, it has such terrifying power. His level of cultivation horrified everyone. I couldn't help but think of those 2 words in my mind. Emperor Wu. The other party has really become the martial emperor. Monster. He is definitely a monster. Otherwise, how could someone become emperor martial at such a young age? This is impossible. Chu Tianba still refused to face reality. And Ling Feng smiled slightly. You're a frog in a well, your knowledge is too shallow, and it's understandable that you don't want to accept the reality. After saying that, he paused with one foot, and a true qi came out smoothly and hit Chu Tianba, exploding him into a ball of blood foam in the blink of an eye. The king of Chu next to him was splashed with blood, his face was pale, his lips were trembling, and he already looked stunned. The allied forces of the 6 nations invaded the Great Zhou, and it was you, the Great Chu, who led it. In that case, let's start with you, the Great Chu. Ling Feng said lightly, and although King Chu looked pale, he still cheered up and said, Ling Feng, what do you want? It's not that bad. I'll kill you and then support a king of Chu who will obey the words of the Great Zhou dynasty. Ling Feng said calmly. You're dreaming. The king of Chu's expression changed and he deprived him of his imperial power and status. This was worse than killing him. But before I kill you, I have one more question. Where is the sword demon now? Ling Feng scanned the entire palace with his clairvoyance. But no trace of the sword demon was found. Jihieji. At this time, a sharp and harsh laughter sounded. Immediately afterwards, the ground of the palace began to shake, and a black sword light broke through the ground, like a beam of light penetrating into the clouds. The ground of the palace cracked, and a figure gradually flew out. When Ling Feng saw this, he suddenly realized, I said why can't I find it? It turned out to be hidden underground. Now that it has come out, then let's die. Having said that, Ling Feng didn't waste any words. Draw the bow and string. The Tianlong bow burst out with brilliant divine light, and an arrow shot out of the air, locking onto the sword demon, and the sword of 10,000 demons in the opponent's hand was also suddenly slashed out. Sword light, arrows. Under the impact of the 2 forces, the shock wave spread wildly. Blast a huge hole in the clouds. Good archery skills. I didn't expect you to become the emperor. And you became the emperor through the art of bow and arrow. The sword demon looked at Ling Feng with deep jealousy in his eyes. How long did it take for him to become Emperor Wu? 3,000 years, 5,000, cannot remember. As for Ling Feng, he is young, maybe only about 20 years old, and he has become emperor directly. The word, monster, is no longer enough to describe him. It's a monster, and it's a monster among monsters. There are many things you didn't expect, such as, you will die here today. Ling Feng smiled lightly and raised the Tianlong bow again. But this time, the true qi in his body burst out. Directly display an extremely powerful bow and arrow martial arts. It was the sun-shooting arrow technique that he brought with him when he understood the sun-shooting emperor's heart. The sun-shooting arrow technique, one arrow flies into the air. Ling Feng drew the bow and condensed the arrow, and the arrow shot out like a shooting star. And the sword demon was not to be outdone, the sword demon's god-slaying technique, the Blood Sea Pagoda. A sword slashed out. The sword energy seemed to intertwine into a sea of blood. Under the impact of the arrows, the power exploded and the storm swept across. Ling Feng also knew that it was not easy to kill the sword demon with one arrow, and he did not hold out such hope. When the arrow was blocked, he drew his bow again. But at this time, behind him, several auras suddenly erupted. But there were 4 figures attacking him from 4 directions. The terrifying true qi was like an overwhelming force, trying to destroy everything. Oh, not dead yet. Ling Feng's eyes flashed slightly. But it was the 4 great demon saints from east, west, south, and north who were mysteriously resurrected. Then die again. True qi surged out of Ling Feng's body. Behind him, a terrifying immortal King Law manifestation arrives. With one palm blast, the domineering power directly enveloped the 4 great demon saints, and with just one move, the bodies of these 4 people were shattered into pieces. But at this time, demonic energy flowed between heaven and earth, and the 4 great demon saints actually condensed around the sword demon again, looking at Ling Feng with a sneer. GG, Ling Feng, it's useless. These 4 great demon saints have formed a soul contract with me. As long as I don't die, they won't die either. It's impossible to kill them. The sword demon sneered. I didn't expect that there is such a weird martial arts, but so what? It's not that difficult for me to kill you. After Ling Feng finished speaking, he raised the Tianlong bow. The arrows condensed. The sharp arrow power locks the sword demon. Okay, then let me see how much you are capable of. The sword demon slays the god, and the gate of hell is approaching. The sword demon raised the sword of all demons in his hand and slashed out with one sword. The sword energy intertwined in the air, as if forming a towering ghost gate. The gate of hell is approaching, and the pressure makes the void vibrate crazily. And at the same time, the 4 great demon saints also killed Ling Feng desperately. Shooting the sun and arrow technique, 7 stars in a row. Ling Feng shot an arrow, and the arrows turned into 7 in the air, like 7 big stars. 4 of the arrows easily killed the 4 great demon saints. The remaining 3 smashed the hell gate to pieces. And it's not over yet. Sun shooting arrow technique, ambush from all sides. Another arrow shot out. The arrows turned into 10 and attacked the sword demon from all directions, as well as the 4 great demon saints who were condensed again next to him. The demon saint was penetrated through the body again. The sword demon waved the sword of 10,000 demons and was able to block a few arrows, but it was quite difficult. Good guy, his skill with bow and arrow has actually reached this level. But, I'm not a vegetarian either. Sword demon slaying god technique, 100 ghosts walking at night. He roared loudly, and the sword of 10,000 demons spurted out endless demonic energy, condensing hundreds of ferocious evil spirits in the void, biting towards Ling Feng. Ling Feng smiled slightly and said, Sun shooting arrow technique, thousands of troops. When an arrow is shot, 1 arrow turns into 10, 10 turns into 100, and 100 turns into 1,000. In the end, thousands of arrows were fired. Like a torrent of arrows, it swept out with an unparalleled momentum. Wherever it went, the demons retreated and hundreds of ghosts disappeared. The sword demon's expression changed. He looked at the surging arrows and wildly waved the sword of 10,000 demons in his hand, knocking the arrows away one after another. But there are too many arrows. He simply couldn't block them all. After a while, his arms and thighs were filled with arrows. The bleeding doesn't stop. The breath is sluggish. Ling Feng looked at him and said indifferently, You lost. Defeat. There's no way I can lose. I, the sword demon, have been emperor for so many years. Even the Azure Emperor, one of the 10 martial emperors back then, could only seal me. Let alone you. The sword demon laughed loudly, then roared loudly, and actually inserted the sword of all demons into his body, and the sword of all demons, which drank the emperor's blood, let out bursts of sword roars. Suddenly, a strong demonic aura enveloped 1,000 miles in radius. It's as if this whole world has been turned into a hell. Ling Feng, try this trick. Man and sword unite to slaughter all the people. The sword demon roared angrily and pulled out the sword of all demons stained with blood. When the magic sword was swung, the magic energy of the sword spurted out, turning into a bloody storm and sweeping out, turning everything everywhere into ashes. Seeing this, Ling Feng narrowed his eyes slightly, fighting to the death. If that's the case, then let you see the ultimate secret of the sun shooting arrow technique. He had a thought in his mind. I saw the 7-star Long Yuan unsheathing his waist, and then placing it on the Tianlong bow. He actually used the 7-star Long Yuan as an arrow. Arrow technique for shooting the sun, falling sun. Whoosh! The 7-star dragon abyss flew out, and the golden divine light bloomed, as if it had turned into a big sun, burning with blazing fire, and there was even a dragon shadow hovering in it. Long Yuan directly tore through the bloody sword energy storm. The force penetrated the sword demon's chest like a broken bamboo, and took him flying out of the royal capital, smashing more than a dozen mountain peaks in succession. Finally, he was nailed to the wall of a mountain peak. And the 4 great demons who had formed a soul contract with him sensed something. Their faces were full of fear, and they kept screaming, "No, no, no, Master." Then, their bodies gradually turned into demonic energy and completely dissipated. Ling Feng used Long Yuan as an arrow and severely damaged the sword demon with one arrow. Even brought him to the brink of death. The 4 great demon saints also completely disappeared due to the heavy damage from the sword demon. Ling Feng slowly walked up to the sword demon, stretched out his hand to grab Kixing Long Yuan, and said lightly, "You are defeated, and this time, you will not be sealed." But, death. After Ling Feng finished speaking, he pulled out Kixing Long Yuan. The sword demon's body fell from the mountain wall and hit the ground, letting out a scream. He looked at Ling Feng and couldn't believe it. Impossible. There can't be a monster like you in this world. You, who is he? You don't need to know. Ling Feng raised his hand and struck out with his sword. Piao Miao's sword intent was activated to the extreme, and the opponent's head was chopped off directly. Sword demon, fallen. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a martial emperor. This is the first time the host has killed a martial emperor. It is worth remembering. Congratulations to the host for winning the Sword Emperor heart. Closing square bracket. Sword Emperor's heart. Ling Feng's eyes lit up. This is the rhythm for him to become emperor again with his sword skills. He is now a martial emperor of the way of bow and arrow. If he adds another martial emperor of the sword, tisk tisk, his strength will undoubtedly rise to another level. Thinking of this, he smiled with satisfaction. Then he took the sword demon's body and returned to the palace of Da Chu in a swish. King Chu had already collapsed on the ground. When the sword demon's body was thrown in front of him, his face turned pale, dead, really dead. The sword demon is dead, now it's your turn. Impossible. Do you think I will just surrender and be captured? King Chu roared angrily and rushed towards Ling Feng. His eyes were blood red, and true qi exploded to the extreme. He looked like he was going to die with him. Ling Feng slapped him away. It's like swatting a fly to death. Boom. King Chu's body exploded and turned into blood mist. The civil and military ministers of the court looked at this scene. Their faces were as pale as paper, sweating profusely, and then they all knelt down in front of Ling Feng. They all know it. The fate of Dachu and even their life and death are now in the hands of the other party. The other party can send them to hell with just a thought. Or, ascend to heaven. You great Chu, who has the highest status now? Ling Feng said lightly. A courtier came out and said tremblingly, I am the Prime Minister of Dachu. In terms of official position, I can be compared with the Generalissimo. Generalissimo, His Majesty is dead. Now I have the highest status. I wonder what Master Ling Feng has to give you. Ling Feng glanced at him and said calmly, from today on, you will be the Emperor of Da Chu. In addition, you will write a surrender edict and submit to Da Zhou. Can you do it? The Prime Minister's body trembled slightly, and then he knelt on the ground. Everything must be obeyed by the Master. There was a glint in his eyes. Be an emperor. As a Prime Minister, he thought there was no possibility of advancement. Unexpectedly, he has become the Emperor of Dachu now. This is not only his fault, but also the fate of Fuin's descendants. From then on, his descendants are the royal family. As for surrendering to the great Zhou, he didn't think it was anything. Dachu was already defeated. If they wanted to destroy the country, Dachu could not do anything. Now it's just submission, which is pretty good. The winner is the king, the loser is the bandit. That's how it should be. Very good. Within 7 days, I want to see the surrender order sent to Da Zhou. You can take care of the rest by yourself. Ling Feng said calmly. Then the figure flashed and disappeared. After Ling Feng left, the Prime Minister dared to stand up slowly, then walked towards the dragon chair and sat on it. Looking at the civil and military officials of the court, he said with majestic eyes, "Everyone, a country cannot live without a king for a day. I have been entrusted by Master Ling Feng to be the king of this country. Do you have any objections?" All civil and military officials in the dynasty looked at each other in astonishment. Then they all shouted, "See your majesty! Comma 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 comma." Soon, the news that Ling Feng went to the great Chu palace and killed the king of Chu and the sword demon by himself spread quickly. The entire sky world was shaken by it. The other 5 dynasties of Wu dynasty no longer had the slightest intention to fight. They wrote surrender edicts one after another and sent them to Zhou dynasty to express their submission. In just a few days, Dazhou suddenly became the most powerful dynasty in the sky world. It's not an exaggeration to say that they dominate the world. This made King Zhou a little confused. Not long ago, the great Zhou dynasty was under siege by 6 dynasties and was in danger. But in just a few days, the great Zhou dynasty directly dominated the world. The ups and downs in this life are too exaggerated. King Bingzhan is truly a god. I'm afraid there won't be another person like the side-by-side king in this world. King Zhou said with emotion. Because of this, King Zhou personally went to White Cloud sect to express his gratitude. But Ling Feng didn't take it too seriously. Just said something. "It's just a matter of convenience, King Zhou, there's no need to be polite." This sentence spread directly throughout the world. Do it easily. You can dominate the world just by doing it. Is it so outrageous? This is so pretentious. For a time, Ling Feng, who easily dominated the world, became the most supreme being in the sky world. Anyone who mentions him can't help but stand in awe. Because not only did he single-handedly defeat several great dynasties and help Great Zhou dominate the world, but he was also the only martial emperor in the sky realm. White Cloud sect, Misty Peak. Ling Feng and Lu Rusi are discussing. He holds the Tianlong bow in his hand and shoots arrows one after another. But they were all easily knocked down by Lu Rusi, and the other party could easily get close to him and hit his head with his fingers. It seems playful, but the superb cultivation shown in every gesture is shocking. Ling Feng knew that Lu Rusi had become the martial emperor long ago, but the strength that the other party showed now still made him feel incredible. After some fighting, Ling Feng put away the Tianlong bow. "I can't beat you, but I can't beat you. Master is indeed the most powerful in the world. My disciple is far behind you." Ling Feng flattered him. Lu Rusi heard this and was satisfied. That's necessary. Then, she suddenly thought of something, turned to look at Ling Feng, her eyes narrowed slightly. "Something's wrong. What I taught you was the misty sword technique, but why did you become the emperor with the way of bow and arrow? Where is your sword way? Why don't you look down on the sword skills that my master taught you?" This, Ling Feng tilted his head, his eyes a little evasive. "Not good. I actually forgot about this." Snapped. Lu Rusi reached out with both hands, grabbed Ling Feng's cheeks, and turned it towards him. "Tell me, what is going on?" "Master, let me go first." "Don't let go." Lu Rusi not only refused to let go, but also rubbed Ling Feng's face vigorously, and he rubbed it harder and harder, looking like he was addicted. "Why didn't I notice that, my disciple? Your skin is so good, so supple and tender, it's almost as good as my master's, and your hand feels pretty good." Ling Feng tried to resist. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. After being rubbed by Lu Rusi for half an hour, Ling Feng felt that his face was almost swollen. He said angrily, "When I get stronger in the future, I will definitely rub it back even more." He thought of the Sword Emperor's heart he had obtained not long ago. It's time to refine it. Avertisement. White Cloud sect, Misty Peak. Ling Feng is refining the Sword Emperor's heart. As time goes by, the 6 dynasties' submission to the Great Zhou dynasty is proceeding smoothly. And the name of Ling Feng has officially resounded throughout the world. That is on this day. On Piaomiao Peak, an extremely powerful sword intent rose into the sky. In an instant, countless long swords buzzed and trembled in a radius of thousands of miles. The power of sword intent continues to spread, not only affecting the surrounding area, but also affecting countless swordsmen throughout the Great Zhou. The swords in their hands all flew out involuntarily. Pointing in the direction of the White Cloud sect, Piaomiao sect, there were bursts of sword chants. It's like worshipping an emperor in the sword. In the White Cloud sect, countless sword cultivators inevitably looked in the direction of Piao Peak, with unprecedented shock in their eyes. Could this breath be? No way. Has Elder Lu Rusi become the emperor? Go and have a look. The master of White Cloud sect, Ji Yu Linglong and others all rushed over at the same time. And then, they saw a man holding a jar of wine under the big tree at Piao Peak, drinking alone, his eyes blurred from drunkenness. This person is none other than Lu Rusi. The other party was drinking and was not the source of the breath. It was obvious that she was not the one who caused Wang Jian to worship. Who could that be? In addition to Elder Lu, there are also people who live in Piao Peak. Junior brother Ling Feng. Everyone realized something and looked towards a room. And there is the source of the vision. That's not right. If the person who caused the vision is junior brother Ling Feng, then it means that he has become the emperor. But, didn't junior brother Ling Feng become the emperor not long ago? How come he has become the emperor now? Someone realized something and said. As soon as these words came out, everyone looked at each other in shock. Yes, Ling Feng had already become the martial emperor through the art of bow and arrow. How could it be possible to become Emperor Wu with a new martial Dao in a short period of time? This doesn't make sense. Such a thing has never been heard of in the history of the Sky Realm. This kind of aura clearly indicates that someone has defeated the martial emperor with swordsmanship, and don't forget that before he became martial emperor with the way of bow and arrow, what junior brother Ling Feng was best at was swordsmanship. Ji Yu Linglong said quietly. If someone were to become the martial emperor with two martial Dao in a short period of time, she would sneer at him and suspect that he was talking in his sleep. But if this person were replaced by Ling Feng, it all seemed to make sense again. After all, that's junior brother Ling Feng, a man who has created countless miracles. To become an emperor with two martial Dao in a short period of time, others cannot. But he certainly can. For Ling Feng, Ji Yu Linglong has such confidence, not just Ji Yu Linglong, Langning Shuang, Feng Xiaoyao, Zhang Ruochen, Zhou Li and others all accepted this fact after going through what Ling Feng did in their minds. Junior brother Ling Feng is the one who can do what others cannot do. Good. They looked at the house with anticipation in their eyes. The sword intent between heaven and earth was getting thicker and thicker, and gradually, a figure as tall as a mountain emerged in the void. The man is holding a golden sword, and the sword intent reaches the sky and the earth. It seems that one sword can cut down the sun, moon and stars, and one sword can open heaven. The sword intent is circulating, and thousands of swords from heaven and earth are coming. That figure had a majestic face, and his eyes contained overwhelming sword energy and divine light, but his facial features were indeed those of Ling Feng. Sure enough, it's my junior brother who broke through the emperor realm. Haha, junior brother is indeed the best. Some people marveled, some laughed excitedly. But no one felt jealous. On the contrary, they all feel deeply proud. Because this is their most favorite junior brother Ling Feng. Under the tree, Lu Rusi glanced at Ling Feng's martial emperor law manifestation with drunken eyes, and chuckled. What a good boy, you actually became the martial emperor with the Piao Miao sword Dao so quickly. However, if you make such a big noise, I'm afraid someone will come from above. Here. At the mention of the above, a hint of cold murderous intent bloomed in her eyes. The wine in his hand solidified into ice in an instant. But soon, she returned to normal, and with a thought, the icy wine melted, and she drank it down. While drinking the cold wine, she couldn't help but tremble, and then her eyes lit up. Drink it while it's iced. Not bad either. I don't know how much time has passed. Ling Feng slowly walked out of the house. The martial emperor's law manifestation above his head also dissipated. At this moment, his aura was majestic and boundless, and his every move was filled with supreme majesty. He became an emperor with two kinds of martial Dao in a row. Even if he didn't actively release his imperial power, it was just an unconscious dissipation, which was terrifyingly strong. Everyone looked at him and couldn't help but feel a sense of strangeness. Is this still the gentle and friendly junior brother they know? When he noticed the crowd coming, Ling Feng smiled. With this smile that made people feel like they were in the spring breeze, the imperial power in him was completely restrained. He no longer looked like a martial emperor at all. Returned to the familiar appearance. It was as if the majesty just now had never existed before. Junior brother, have you really become the sword emperor? Wow, junior brother, you are so awesome. Arrow Martial Emperor, Sword Emperor, in such a short period of time, you are the only one who has broken through the martial Dao with 2 kinds of martial Dao in succession. Yes, you are so strong. Senior brother, please teach us. Looking at the people gathered together, Ling Feng smiled and said, being able to become the martial emperor is inseparable from talent and opportunity, as well as one's own hard work. Of course, there may be a little bit of luck involved. I will hold a martial arts conference at that time to discuss with you the experience of becoming a martial emperor. I can help you as much as I can. When everyone heard this, their eyes lit up. Thank you, junior brother. Thank you, senior brother. The martial arts conference, I'm really looking forward to it. Everyone left talking. The master of White Cloud sect stayed and said, Xiao Feng, I have distributed the tendon cleansing and marrow breaking pills you gave me when you came back. Now the overall qualifications of my White Cloud sect disciples have improved a lot. Thank you very much. You're welcome, master. When do you plan to take over the position of sect leader? Oh, master, look at you. You are in such great shape. You can tell at a glance that you can live for at least a few thousand years. Why are you in such a hurry? Ling Feng quickly excused himself. He plans to live happily for a few more years. Be the leader. No, you. The master of White Cloud sect shook his head helplessly, but did not force the other party. Then he glanced at Lu Rusi, who was still drinking not far away, and glared, you said that your apprentice has become the martial emperor, and you don't come to congratulate him. Lu Rusi burped, I'm just a martial emperor. It doesn't matter. When I was in heaven, I could kill hundreds of people with one slap. Do you still think you are the reincarnation of a god? The master of White Cloud sect said with a smile. I told you, but you don't believe me, so forget it, I won't tell you anymore. Lu Rusi shrugged. Ling Feng, on the other hand, was very curious, Master, can you tell me about your affairs in heaven? Good disciple, I knew that in this world where everyone is drunk and I am alone, you are the only one who understands me best. Lu Rusi laughed and ran to Ling Feng, hugging him into her arms and giving him a good squeeze. Ling Feng was speechless for a while. Master, the sect master is still here, don't move anything. Ignore him, go into the house, I will tell you carefully how glorious I was when I was in heaven. Lu Rusi laughed. She pulled Ling Feng into the house, paying no attention to the White Cloud sect master. The other party shook his head helplessly, this junior sister is talking nonsense again. He ignored it and left to concentrate on White Cloud sect. Work hard, come on. Make White Cloud sect the #1 sect in the sky, and then hand it over completely to Zhaofeng so that I can retire. The owner of White Cloud sect is somewhat looking forward to his retirement life. And the other side, Lu Rusi was telling Ling Feng about his glorious deeds in heaven. Between heaven and earth, there are 3,000 worlds. The firmament world is just one of the 3,000 worlds, and above the 3,000 worlds, there is a world called Immortal World. Practitioners in the 3,000 worlds all aim to become immortals through ascension. And within the immortal world, there are 8 more immortal domains. Each immortal domain is vast and boundless, with strong people like a forest. There are also practitioners in the immortal world, and their levels are strict, even worse than those in the firmament realm. Quote, Immortal world practitioners are divided into Phaeton, Profound Immortal, Earth Immortal, Celestial Immortal, Golden Immortal, Immortal Lord, Immortal King, Immortal Venerable, Immortal Emperor. Wait a minute, Master. Ling Feng immediately raised his hand to interrupt Lu Rusi. Master, why do I feel that the hierarchy of immortal world is similar to that of martial artist in the sky world? They are all kings, emperors, etc. Isn't it corny? Oh, it's just a realm. It's no big deal. Just think it's the will of heaven. Lu Rusi waved his hand. Oh, where did I say it? The division of realms in the immortal world. Oh yes, the most powerful person in the immortal world is the immortal emperor. And that master, I was one of the top 10 immortal emperors in the immortal world, and among the top 10 immortal emperors, I was still the one with the best combat power. He even faintly touched the realm of the legendary great principal immortal emperor above the immortal emperor. A look of satisfaction appeared on Lu Rusi's face. When Ling Feng heard this, he quickly made a look of admiration. Wow, Master, you are so awesome. So, aren't you the most powerful person in the immortal world? Roughly the same. Lu Rusi enjoys the feeling of being worshipped by Ling Feng. Back then, as the immortal emperor, she was above hundreds of millions of living beings and was worshipped and admired by countless people, but none of them felt as good as being worshipped by Ling Feng alone. Then Master, how did you come to the firmament realm? Speaking of this, I get angry. I had already come into contact with the realm of the great principal immortal emperor. Once I broke through, I became the veritable number one person in the immortal world. But I didn't expect that I would be seriously injured during the transcending tribulation. Forget it, the most important thing is that those shameless immortal emperors actually attacked me while I was injured. Fortunately, I activated the secret method of reincarnation, and then I was reincarnated in the firmament world. Lu Rusi said angrily. Hearing this, Ling Feng couldn't bear it anymore. What? There are such despicable, shameless, dirty people. Master, tell me which immortal emperors are they? They will treat me in the Ascension immortal world. You take revenge. Well, I can't tell you this yet. After all, your current cultivation level is not enough. If you go to them on impulse, they can crush you to death with one finger. I don't want to lose you as a bad apprentice. It's because I'm not strong enough. Ling Feng sighed. He decided in his heart that he must seek justice for his master in the future. Ding. Closing square bracket. The host learns the secret of his master's reincarnation and is determined to seek justice for his master. He is full of motivation to practice. Closing square bracket. Reward host divine level talent, lucky critical hit. Closing square bracket. Lucky crit. Ling Feng blinked, a little curious about this talent. System, what is the use of this talent? Lucky crit, as the name suggests, allows the host's attack to have a certain chance of causing a critical hit. The critical hit effect is random, with a minimum of 1 time and a maximum of 100 million times. Once a 100 million times critical hit is triggered, the host's attack will be increased by 100 million times. Even the immortal venerable immortal emperor may fall by then. Closing square bracket. When Ling Feng heard this, he suddenly took a breath of air. My dear, this lucky crit is simply a bug. Cow batch, cow batch. By the way, Master, can you ascension immortal world now? It's not that easy. I didn't know who it was before. I offended the boss of immortal world. Now the road to immortality in the firmament world has been cut off, making it impossible for the martial artists in the firmament world to ascend to immortality. And once I pass ascension to the immortal world, if I accidentally leak my aura, those enemies from back then will come looking for me. With my current strength, I can't even deal with the immortal king, let alone the immortal venerable immortal emperor. Lu Rusi said helplessly. This is also the reason why she has been staying in the sky world. But now, immortal world is expected to send someone soon. Why? Because of you, you just broke through Emperor Wu. The sword intent is extremely powerful. You faintly broke through the world barrier and reached the immortal world. My enemies will definitely come to find out the reason. Lu Rusi shrugged. Ah, then if an immortal emperor comes, won't we be done with it? Don't worry, even the immortal emperor cannot ignore the rules of the world. The immortal emperor's strength is too strong for the lower realm to bear, so if they come to the lower realm, most of their strength will be sealed. At most, they will only send a few flying immortals. Profound immortal come and check, it can't come easily. I see. Don't be too happy too early. Even ordinary flying immortals are not as powerful as Emperor Wu. Lu Rusi said calmly. Don't worry, Master, I'm confident. Ling Feng was full of confidence. With the lucky critical hit, he felt that even if the immortal king came, he would have a chance to defeat the opponent. Of course, he must be lucky enough. But he believed that his system would not let him die easily. Right, system? Ling Feng asked in his heart. System. Ding. Closing square bracket. The host believes in the system so much that the system is very moved and rewards the host with a divine level physique, an immortal body. Closing square bracket. Immortal body. My dear. Ling Feng took another breath of air. System, is this immortal body really as immortal as it sounds? Exactly. Closing square bracket. Immortal body, even if the host is shattered to pieces, as long as there is a drop of blood or even a cell, it can be quickly reorganized. Closing square bracket. It is one of the most powerful physiques in the world. Closing square bracket. System, please allow me to say something. I love you so much. Please, host, please respect yourself, I am not such a casual system. I don't know if it's an illusion. Ling Feng feels that the system's voice is a bit shy. Just when Ling Feng obtained the 2-plug level abilities of Lucky Critical Strike and Immortality, in the center of the sky world, above the top of the sky, dark clouds suddenly gathered, thunder resounded, and a terrifying aura spread out. In the void, a huge crack suddenly opened. Looming among them, a giant white door emerged. In the sky above the top of the sky, there were lightning and thunder, and billions of divine lights intertwined. And inside, a huge white door loomed. Gradually, the giant white door opened, and a man dressed in white walked out. This man was majestic, riding a white horse, and the aura exuding from his body was extremely powerful, and even the surrounding void was trembling slightly, as if it was about to twist. As the man walked out, a terrifying celestial energy suddenly surged out from the giant door behind him. This immortal energy was intertwined with the spiritual energy of the firmament realm itself, and immediately caused the entire firmament realm to tremble. Like a chain reaction, powerful auras emanated from everywhere in the firmament realm, and ancient beings awakened one after another. This aura is immortal energy. Haha, great. Since the battle that cut off the path to immortality 10,000 years ago, this world has finally welcomed the immortal energy again. Has the immortal world forgive us? There is an influx of immortal energy again, and the path to immortality is reopened. There is hope for our breakthrough. In each place, ancient figures appeared one after another. They awakened from their long slumber, unbridledly exuding the majestic aura of the martial emperor. For a time, hundreds of millions of sentient beings in the entire firmament world trembled. The top of the sky. The immortal on the white horse sensed the aura around him and snorted. The sky realm, the world that used to offend the immortal king of the 9 Ju, was sealed by the heavenly gate, and cut off the path to immortality. I didn't expect that there would be so many emperors. Where are the level characters? In his perception, there are at least nearly 100 emperor levels in the firmament world. When the immortal energy returned to the world, these hundreds of emperor-level characters couldn't wait to wake up from their slumber. If you want to absorb immortal energy, ascension becomes an immortal. All the emperors in this world come to see me. The white horse immortal said indifferently. The sound was like rolling thunder, mighty and powerful, resounding throughout the heaven and earth. Not a moment, one after another, figures came quickly. They carried an ancient aura, and they were all emperors who had just woken up from a deep sleep. They looked at the white immortal gate behind White Horse Immortal, their eyes full of fire, eager to enter. That's the immortal gate, and behind the door is the immortal world. As long as we enter that door, we will also be immortals. Immortal, live forever and shine with the sun and the moon. I want to be an immortal. Emperor Yuwu couldn't hold back and quickly flew towards the white immortal gate. But at this time, the white horse immortal raised his eyes slightly, and then pointed out with a finger, a vast and unparalleled fingering force like a vast ocean. It contains mysterious and profound immortal power. The martial emperor who rushed out could not withstand the power of this finger at all. In just an instant, he was killed by one finger and turned into ashes. Kill Emperor Wu with one finger. The power of the immortal immediately shocked everyone present. The power of immortals. This is the immortal. Too horrible. Oh my god, this has completely surpassed the scope of martial arts. The emperors stood there, not daring to mess around. One of the old Emperor Wu raised his hands and said, I wonder what this immortal wants to do when he comes to the sky world. Is there anything we can do for you? The white horse immortal glanced at the old Emperor Wu approvingly. Very good, it seems that he is still a sensible person. I came here today just to find someone. A sinner of the immortal world. Her name is Lu Xian. In this world, she may not be called this name, but this person is addicted to alcohol and is good at swordsmanship. The sword intent is as misty as clouds. Please help me find this person and bring her to the sky realm. You can reopen the immortal gate. When the time comes, you will have the chance to become immortals with ascension. As soon as this statement came out, many martial emperors' eyes lit up. The old man quickly promised, please rest assured, immortal, we will do our best to find this person and bring him here. Go ahead, I'll wait for you here. The white horse immortal said calmly. After saying that, he sat cross-legged next to immortal gate. And all the martial emperors also left quickly. Went to look for this so-called Lu Xian. The gate of heaven reopens and the immortal descends. This big news spread across the sky in an instant like thunder on the ground. Especially the martial emperors who emerged from their slumber brought unprecedented shock to the major forces in the firmament realm. No one expected. There is usually no martial emperor in the Kanchong realm, but there are so many old immortals hiding in the secrets, which almost scares people's eyes. White Cloud Sect, Misty Peak. Lu Rusi was not surprised by the appearance of those martial emperors. When the heavenly gate was not closed in the Kanchong realm, there were many immortals. Although the heavenly gate was closed, there were still many martial emperors who survived. It's just that I sealed myself one by one in order to wait for the heavenly gate to reopen and get the opportunity of ascension. Now that the opportunity has come, of course I have to wake up. Ling Feng listened on the sidelines and nodded slightly. With so many martial emperors suddenly appearing, I'm afraid it will cause unprecedented conflicts to the structure of the Kanchong realm. Don't worry, they are all a group of martial emperors after all. They don't have much interest in worldly rights. What they want is the opportunity of ascension. I guess everyone is looking for me now. Lu Rusi yawned, looking like an old god. She is not worried at all about the threat these martial emperors will pose to her. Ling Feng thought for a moment and was not worried. He is only curious about one thing now, that is, how strong is the white horse immortal who came to the sky world? Can you handle it yourself? Immortal, I really want to fight with him. Ling Feng's fighting spirit is getting ready. And on the other side, most of the revived martial emperors are looking for the whereabouts of Lu Xian. But no one has ever seen Lu Xian, and there are so many people in this world who are addicted to alcohol, and finding her is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Therefore, some Emperor Wu found another way. Planned to mobilize the power of the entire dynasty to find it. After all, searching with a group of people is much more efficient than searching alone. Great Qian Dynasty. Inside the palace. Today, a mighty coercion fell from the sky. A martial emperor suddenly arrived. Seeing this, King Qian and others quickly brought people out to greet him. The contemporary King Qian even knelt on the ground. Unfilial descendants have met our ancestors. This Emperor Wu was dressed in white, and his appearance was somewhat similar to that of King Qian. He is the founding ancestor of the Great Qian Dynasty. Known as Emperor Qian. HMPH, I know everything about Dagon. I didn't expect that after I fell into a deep sleep, Dagon would actually fall to such a level. He united with the other 5 dynasties to besiege a large Zhou dynasty, and he was beaten to the ground. It's so embarrassing. Emperor Qian snorted coldly. A powerful pressure burst out from his body. Under this pressure, everyone trembled and did not dare to speak. Yes, ancestor, it is our descendants who are incompetent. King Qian knelt on the ground humbly and said, Okay, get up first, Da Zhou. I will go there myself. Go meet this so-called genius Ling Feng. Emperor Qian snorted coldly. Ancestor, Ling Feng should not be underestimated. It is said that the sword demons in Dachu were easily killed by the opponent. King Qian said. Sword demon, how can that first-level martial emperor compare to me? Emperor Qian smiled disdainfully. During the big week, a powerful aura suddenly erupted. In the palace, an ancient Emperor Wu suddenly arrived. After seeing him arrive, King Zhou felt that he looked a little familiar. But I can't tell where it is familiar. I wonder if your excellency is. King Zhou asked curiously. The ancient martial emperor said indifferently, I am your ancestor. King Zhou's face darkened, how presumptuous. Although your excellency is the Emperor Wu, by speaking like this, you are not looking down upon me, great Zhou. The Emperor Wu frowned, I am really your ancestor. Still saying, come here, go and invite King Bingzhan. King Zhou snorted coldly. Knowing that he was no match, he planned to ask someone to invite Ling Feng. At the same time, Sky-Splitting Sword Saint, Li Zinshu, Wine Saint and others also rushed out, holding a bloody sword, a golden axe, and a long black stick in their hands. Surprisingly, they are all emperor weapon. They were collected from other dynasties. Although he is still no match for Emperor Wu. But with these emperor weapon here, they can still deal with it. Hey, there are so many emperor weapons in the Great Zhou dynasty, and they seem to be developing well. Is this all the work of the so-called side-by-side king? The old man smiled slightly, a little curious. But then, he stretched out his hand, pulled up his sleeves, revealing a crescent birthmark on his wrist, and said lightly, "I am really your ancestor, Emperor Zhou." After seeing the birthmark, King Zhou was stunned for a moment. Because he has it too. This is a birthmark passed down from generation to generation in my Zhou family. It contains a hint of the power of the martial emperor. You must have it too, said Emperor Zhou. King Zhou nodded, confirmed the identity of the person in front of him, and then knelt down with a bang. Zhou Yun, the 47th generation descendant of Zhou, has met his ancestors. The sky-splitting sword master and others also saluted. Okay, you're welcome. On the way here, I heard a lot of things about the side-by-side king. Tell me about it. Yes, ancestor. King Zhou welcomed Emperor Zhou into the palace and began to tell about Ling Feng. The more Emperor Zhou listened, the more he admired him. But gradually, I felt something was wrong. Becoming emperor at only 20 years old. Or the two emperors of swordsmanship and archery. Do you want to be so exaggerated? Real or fake? Are these guys exaggerating? Even though Emperor Zhou was well informed, he still found it incredible after hearing these exaggerated deeds of Ling Feng. It would be difficult to believe them unless he saw them in person. So the king of Zhou sent someone to invite Ling Feng to come and see him. White Cloud Sect, Misty Peak. Zhou Li got the news and came to find Ling Feng. Senior brother, my father sent someone to send a message to me, saying that my ancestor wants to see you and asked you to invite you there. Your ancestor? Yes, I heard that he was a martial emperor, but I didn't even know about it. It turns out that my great Zhou dynasty also has a martial emperor, and I don't know what he looks like. Zhou Li was a little curious. Ling Feng was also a little surprised and wanted to meet him, so he followed Zhou Li there, but Zhou Li was not strong enough and her speed was too slow. Ling Feng deliberately slowed down hundreds of times, but the opponent still couldn't keep up. Senior brother, how about you carry me and hurry up? It will be much faster this way. Suddenly, Zhou Li suggested. After saying that, her face was as red as an apple, and her eyes were twinkling, full of expectations. Ling Feng was a little hesitant. Well, if senior brother doesn't want to, forget it. It doesn't matter if you let the ancestor wait for a few days. Zhou Li said disappointedly. That's not what I meant. Then, junior sister, I'm offended. Ling Feng took action directly and picked up Princess Zhou Li. Zhou Li also took advantage of the situation and put her arms around Ling Feng's neck, making a, yeah, gesture behind him, feeling as happy as setting off fireworks. Wow, senior brother's chest is so strong. Senior brother's face is so beautiful, even if you look at it so close, there is no flaw at all. And my senior brother smells so good, I really want to kiss him. Zhou Li kept thinking in her mind, her heart was pounding, and she didn't forget to ask, senior brother, am I heavy? Fortunately, I feel nothing. Ling Feng was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and smiled. I just thought the other person's question was so funny. Don't talk about Zhou Li. Even if it is a mountain, he can hold it in his arms. Junior sister, let's set off. Okay. Zhou Li was not ready yet. With a whoosh, she felt the scenery around her move backwards so fast that she couldn't help but scream. Ah, brother, slow down, slow down. Junior sister, please be patient, we will be there soon. Ling Feng is at full speed. As fast as a strong wind, like a streak of light across the sky. Zhou Li also gradually adapted to Ling Feng's speed. She opened her eyes and looked at the surrounding scenery, then looked up at Ling Feng's chin, and couldn't help but be fascinated. No matter how beautiful this scenery is, it can't compare to senior brother. She snuggled into Ling Feng's arms, her face full of happiness. But this happiness did not last long. In less than a moment, they arrived at the sky above the Great Zhou Palace from the White Cloud Sect, which was hundreds of thousands of miles away. Junior sister, we are here, Ling Feng said with a slight smile. Zhou Li put her arm around his shoulders and said, so fast. Well, you come down first. Oh, Zhou Li was a little reluctant to leave. The two entered the palace and met the king and emperor of Zhou. Father, seeing King Zhou, Zhou Li went up to act coquettishly. Good girl, how are you doing in White Cloud Sect? Very good. My brothers and sisters take good care of me. That's good, that's good. King Zhou smiled happily. Let me introduce to you, this is the ancestor of my Zhou family. Come and meet my ancestor. Zhou Li bowed respectfully. I've met my ancestor. Not bad, not bad. He has reached the level of martial arts at a young age. He has a good chance of becoming an emperor in the future. I have a successor in the Zhou family. After Emperor Zhou noticed Zhou Li's cultivation, he couldn't help but smile. This is all due to senior brother. Senior brother gave me the muscle cleansing pill and improved my qualifications, so I have the cultivation level 1/2 today. Zhou Li praised her senior brother to the heavens. King Zhou also quickly thanked him. Ling Feng felt a little embarrassed. I should. He didn't just give Zhou Li the essence cleansing pill. There are so many, basically one white cloud sect per person. Haha, I heard that my little friend broke through to the realm of the martial emperor at such a young age. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems that he is truly a talented person from generation to generation. Emperor Zhou looked at Ling Feng and felt the power contained in his body. He couldn't help but sigh from the bottom of his heart. Then he said with great interest, I wonder if you would like to compete with me. Then it's better to be respectful than to obey. Ling Feng smiled slightly. The two of them left the palace and got into a posture. The sky-splitting sword master and others were also watching from the sidelines. Everyone was concentrating, for fear of missing the slightest detail. This is the battle of the Emperor Martial. If they can learn something from it, it will be of great help to them in breaking through the Emperor Martial realm in the future. Please. Emperor Zhou made a gesture of invitation. Ling Feng was not polite and punched out directly. The surging true qi was like a vast ocean, which instantly made Emperor Zhou feel even more stressed. I go. So fierce. He blocked it with all his strength, but was still knocked back more than a dozen steps. The two sides began a formal confrontation. The punches and kicks are coming, true qi is flying, every move contains profound martial arts secrets. Ling Feng's power is constantly improving with the battle. But the more Emperor Zhou beat, the more frightened he became, and his hands were trembling slightly. The other party was much more terrifying than he thought. After some sparring, Emperor Zhou's hands were trembling. While beating, he suddenly stopped. Ling Feng couldn't help but feel a little confused when he saw him stop. Why did it stop suddenly? He hasn't even used half of his power yet. Emperor Zhou stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly, Little friend, Ling Feng's strength is really amazing. Martial Emperor's 9th level, you have at least reached the 3rd level. Compared to me, it's almost the same. He looked calm. But no one noticed that the hands behind him were shaking. Ling Feng didn't think much about it and said, Senior has advanced cultivation skills and I admire him. If I have time, I would like to learn more with my senior. Ahem, let's talk about this later when we have a chance. Good guy. This time during the sparring session, he almost had both of his hands disabled. He didn't dare to mess around again. He took a deep look at Ling Feng and couldn't help but sigh. What a little monster. Just when the two sides had just finished their friendly discussion, a domineering roar came from not far away, and a powerful voice came like rolling thunder. Emperor Zhou, I didn't expect that this old guy like you would wake up too. An old man dressed in white came over as fast as lightning. His whole body was wrapped with thin arcs of electricity. It looks like an unattainable god of thunder. Seeing him, Emperor Zhou narrowed his eyes slightly. Emperor Qian. It's me. I came here today just to avenge my shame. Emperor Qian snorted coldly. Who is Ling Feng among you? Ling Feng walked out slowly. That's it. Sure enough, you are just as rumored. You are young and promising. Unfortunately, you are so young and energetic that you dare to seize my Dakion territory. You deserve death. Today I will destroy you and then take the territory that belongs to me. Take back. Then it depends on whether you have the ability or not. Ling Feng said indifferently, without any fear on his face. Kixing Longyuan around his waist trembled slightly. The high sword intent gradually spread out from him. Haha, Emperor Qian, this is my territory in Dazhou. If you act recklessly here, you must ask me first. Emperor Zhou stepped forward, blocked in front of Ling Feng, turned around and said with a smile, Little friend Ling Feng, I have some old grudges with Emperor Qian, and you have come from afar and are my distinguished guest from Zhou dynasty. How can I let you take action? Why don't you give him to me? This is okay. Ling Feng wanted to take action. After all, the discussion with Emperor Zhou just now was not entirely enjoyable. Finally, another Emperor Wu came, and he wanted to meet him. But Emperor Zhou said so he had to suppress his fighting spirit first. Well, who calls someone a senior? Ding. Closing square bracket. The host respects the old and loves the young, is courteous to the seniors, knows how to restrain himself, and gives the opportunity to perform to others, and rewards the host. Swallow the celestial immortal technique. Closing square bracket. Ling Feng blinked. Unexpectedly, there was an unexpected harvest. An extremely mysterious technique appeared in his mind. It is the celestial immortal technique. This technique is extraordinary, it is a technique superior to emperor-level techniques. And among many spells, it is considered the best. The most important thing is that this technique is rewarded by the system. Ling Feng doesn't need to spend time learning it, and he masters it completely in a flash. Swallow celestial immortal technique. Swallow the cultivation of others and turn it into your own use. You can even fully master the opponent's moves. What a domineering technique. Isn't this the immortal version of absorbing energy? Ling Feng couldn't help but be amazed. At this time, Emperor Zhou and Emperor Qian were already having. The imperial pressure of the two people was like two mountains colliding together. After the ground exploded, the two people disappeared at the same time. Looking again, the two of them were already thousands of feet high in the sky. This is not a sparring session, but a life and death duel. Therefore, his momentum was much more terrifying than when he was sparring with Ling Feng just now. I saw dark clouds rolling in the sky, lightning and thunder, and the two emperors were like gods descending to earth, controlling the wind and clouds, and controlling the thunder and lightning. Every move contains the power of a natural disaster. The two sides clashed with great momentum. The pressure fell down like a waterfall, shaking the entire royal capital. Many people were pressed to the ground and miserable. Seeing this, Ling Feng took a step forward, and the sword intent flowed out of his body. In an instant, it turned into a sword energy shield, covering the sky above the capital. The aftermath and coercion of the fight between the two martial emperors were isolated. Many people were saved from disaster. It was King Bingzhan who took action. You have to be the side-by-side king. Yeah, if it weren't for him, we would be in danger this time. The Battle of Emperor Wu is indeed not something ordinary people can observe. Even if you watch from the sidelines, your life will be in danger. Everyone was talking a lot, some praised Ling Feng, others praised Emperor Martial's strength, but more martial artists were excited. For them, being able to observe the Battle of Emperor Wu so close is something they can never hope for. If they can gain some understanding, they will benefit a lot. Ding. Closing square bracket. The host acts bravely, helps the people, shields the people of the capital from wind and rain, and resists the pressure of Emperor Wu in the aftermath of the battle. He is so gentle. Closing square bracket. Reward the host with 1 billion supreme grade spiritual stones. Closing square bracket. Spiritual stone. Ling Feng's storage ring already contains an unknown amount of this thing. The system will award a bunch of rewards every now and then. Now, the spiritual stones in his storage ring are piled up into several mountains. Ling Feng looked at the Battle of Emperor Wu in the air. Gradually, he saw a clue. The two martial emperors seemed to be equally matched, but in fact, the Emperor Qian had not exerted his full strength and still had reservations. If the fight continues, it will be disadvantageous for Emperor Zhou. Just when Ling Feng was thinking this, a white sword light suddenly came out from the void and attacked Emperor Zhou from behind. Emperor Zhou was caught off guard and was penetrated by sword light in the chest. Blood spurted out. He lost all strength and fell from the sky at high speed. Due to this height, and the fact that Emperor Zhou was severely injured by a sneak attack, if he were to fall down, he would probably fall into a puddle of flesh and die immediately. At the critical moment, Ling Feng's figure flashed, and as fast as a ghost, he caught Emperor Zhou directly and fell back to the ground steadily. He looked high into the sky. I don't know when another martial emperor appeared. The opponent was dressed in a green shirt and had a flying sword at his feet. He looked like an immortal, but he actually made a sneak attack. Mean. King Zhou looked at the two people in the air and cursed. But Emperor Qian didn't take it seriously and snorted, even without a sneak attack, I can defeat him. Emperor Liang, it's unnecessary for you to take action this time. He said the last words to the man in green shirt. Emperor Liang, The other party is the founding ancestor of the Liang dynasty. The purpose of coming to Dazhou this time is the same as that of Emperor Qian, to deal with Ling Feng, destroy Dazhou, and regain the situation for the Liang dynasty. Oh, Emperor Qian, don't forget, our target is not Emperor Zhou, but Ling Feng. Let's fight quickly. Let's deal with him together. Emperor Liang smiled slightly. Upon hearing this, Emperor Qian snorted lightly and said nothing more. Obviously he also agrees with what the other party said. Little friend Ling Feng, take King Zhou, Zhou Li and the others away quickly. Emperor Zhou covered his chest and said with a pale face. Don't talk yet, I'll heal your wounds. Ling Feng said. No need, I won't live long with my injuries. Emperor Zhou smiled bitterly. Being stabbed in the chest by Emperor Wu's sword, even if he was also Emperor Wu, he would not be able to survive. But when Ling Feng raised his hand, green true qi surged out, mixed with an unparalleled vitality, and quickly repaired his wounds. It's a magic spell that brings everything back to life. Emperor Qian and Emperor Liang looked at the severely injured Emperor Zhou and thought that the other party would not survive long. Now they only need to concentrate on dealing with Ling Feng. But when Ling Feng's rejuvenation spell was cast, their expressions couldn't help but change slightly, with a look of surprise and uncertainty on their faces. Is this some kind of healing martial arts? If I stab you in the chest with my sword, no healing martial arts will work. Emperor Liang still had full confidence in his sword. But when the wound on Emperor Zhou's chest gradually healed, he couldn't help but widen his eyes, looking like he couldn't believe it. Healed? What kind of martial arts is this, so magical? I'm afraid this is beyond the scope of martial arts. This is spell. This guy actually knows healing spells. Quick, do it. The two Emperor Wu looked at each other, and while Ling Feng was still treating Emperor Zhou, they quickly took action and flew towards Ling Feng. Emperor Wu's true qi fully exploded. Ling Feng saw this and didn't panic. While treating Emperor Zhou, Long Yuan was unsheathed at his waist. A sharp and domineering sword energy roared out, like an immortal guiding the way. The two great martial emperors were directly knocked back by this sword. What a domineering sword spirit! The power of this sword is no longer weaker than that of a strong man at the 5th level of the martial emperor. Doesn't it mean that he has just been promoted to the martial emperor? How come you have such strength? The two great martial emperors looked at each other, confused in their hearts. But things have come to this, and there is no turning back for them. With a thought in his mind, Emperor Qian raised his hand, and a long knife appeared in his hand. The blade was glowing with blood, exuding a cold evil aura. Try the heavenly evil slash in my hand. Emperor Qian held the evil sword in his hand, and his momentum increased a few points. He had not used this sword in the battle with Emperor Zhou just now, just to keep it to deal with Ling Feng. Now that the sword came out, he no longer held it back. The long sword was swung with great aura. The evil spirit is so awe-inspiring, this world seems to be dragged into a ghost land. Upon seeing this, Emperor Liang waved his long sword, and streams of sword energy burst out from the sword's edge, intertwining into a dense sword network. The sword net is airtight and complements the Tianxi sword energy. Let's attack Ling Feng together. Oh, good time. Ling Feng smiled slightly and waved the Long Yuan sword in his hand. In an instant, the sword energy of heaven and earth surged and turned into 10,000 swords flying into the sky. It's the magic, Wanjian Ju. 10,000 sword techniques roared across the sky and earth, like 10,000 peerless sword cultivators launching an attack. The three forces roared, creating an unprecedented impact. The clouds above the capital of the great Zhou dynasty exploded, forming a huge hole. It was as if the sky had been pierced. Emperor Qian and Emperor Liang each took a few steps back. But Ling Feng still stood there, dressed in white like snow, spotless. After his death, Emperor Zhou, who received the rejuvenation treatment of all things, also fully recovered. Feeling his own situation, Emperor Zhou couldn't help laughing. I feel better than ever before. Little friend Ling Feng, your spells are really extraordinary. Today, let us keep these two guys together. Senior Zhou Emperor has just recovered, so he should take a rest. As for these two guys, let me do it for you. Ling Feng said with a smile. Although the rejuvenation of all things can restore injuries, but true qi cannot be restored. Emperor Zhou had just fought with Emperor Qian and lost a lot of true qi. It was not suitable to fight again at this time, and Ling Feng also wanted to try to fight 1 against 2. If that's the case, then I'll be on the sidelines to help my little friend. Emperor Zhou smiled. Okay. Ling Feng smiled slightly, then looked at Emperor Qian and Emperor Liang, and raised his fingers at the two of them. If you have any skills, just show them. HMPH, Ling Feng, don't be too arrogant. With 1 against 2, even you may not be your opponent. The 2 martial emperors snorted coldly, a little annoyed. They all felt slighted, but Ling Feng still had a faint and calm smile on his face, as if everything was under control. Wouldn't you know if you give it a try? Kill. Emperor Qian was the first to take action, and the heavenly evil slash roared out in his hand. Each sword was filled with a fierce and unparalleled evil spirit, and it was extremely domineering. And Emperor Liang slashed out with his long sword. His swordsmanship was exquisite. Every move is like an antelope hanging its horns, leaving no trace behind. 1 sword at a time, perfect cooperation. Kill Ling Feng. Faced with such a siege, Ling Feng Long Yuan is in hand, wielding it at will. Sometimes his sword skills are open and close, sometimes clever, sometimes cunning and vicious. A sword was used to perfection in his hands. Sword intent is elusive and unpredictable. It seems that if you cast it at will, there will be thousands of changes. Good swordsmanship. Little friend Ling Feng's understanding of the way of swordsmanship has reached the point where swordsmanship is natural. He is not limited to moves, but every move is superb. Emperor Zhou, who was watching the battle, couldn't help but sigh. The rest of the people were also fascinated by it. Buzz. At this time, Emperor Qian and Emperor Liang were both knocked back by Ling Feng's sword. The 2 of them looked at each other and activated their true qi to the extreme. Slay the evil spirits and destroy the eternal netherworld. Emperor Qian held Tianxi slash tightly in both hands and slashed it down suddenly. The black and red sword light seemed to contain a 9 nether hell, pressing down forcefully. It's Qiandi's strongest move, and Emperor Liang held a long sword in his hand, and the sword came out like a dragon. The sword energy intertwined into a mighty golden dragon, roaring out of the air. Stegodragon flying to the sky. The 2 ultimate moves, 1 in front and 1 behind, attack Ling Feng together. If he resists the first move, the next move will hit him hard. The cooperation between the 2 great martial emperors is amazing. And Ling Feng seems to be in danger. Unless he can block these 2 moves in 1 breath. Emperor Zhou couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to help. We must not let little friend Ling Feng get into trouble here. I will risk my life to save him. Ling Feng has a bright future. In the future, you can even ascension to become an immortal. He didn't want to see such a young man with unlimited potential die in front of him, let alone the other person who was very kind to Da Zhou. But just when he was about to take action, a strong sword intent spread out from Ling Feng, and for a moment, thousands of swords in the world resonated with it. 1 sword, Misty. Ling Feng casts the ethereal sword. The 9 heavens are the sword, the earth is the sword, the wind and clouds are the sword, and the yellow sand is the sword. Everything in heaven and earth is the sword of unified harmony. Cut out with 1 sword, and naturally derive myriad manifestations. At the same time, Ling Feng felt an inexplicable force burst out from his body, and the power of the sword energy increased several times in an instant. Exactly, a lucky crit. Boom. The sword energy roared out, and the joint attacks of the 2 great martial emperors were destroyed together by this sword. The 2 of them bore the brunt, vomiting blood at the mouth, and flew out upside down. No, this power. Run. Emperor Qian's expression changed greatly. Ignoring his own injuries, he activated true qi with all his strength and was about to escape. But Ling Feng is faster than him. Now that you're here, let's stay. With a swish, he came to the front of Emperor Qian, spread out his 5 fingers, and fiercely hooded the opponent's head, which contained a terrifying sharpness. It's as if there is a black hole in that palm. Qian Di, who had been severely injured by the sword energy, could not resist it at all, and was directly covered by this palm. Then the next moment, the true qi in his body was like opening a floodgate and pouring towards Ling Feng in an endless stream. It was swallowing celestial immortal technique. Swallow the celestial immortal technique and cast it. The true qi and cultivation in Emperor Qian's body were like opening a floodgate to release a flood, pouring continuously towards Ling Feng, and most of it was sucked up in a short time, falling directly from the Emperor Realm World to Martial Saint. Then from Martial Saint, to Wu Zun, Wu Wang, Wu Zong. The cultivation base plummeted all the way. On the other hand, Ling Feng's cultivation level is rising steadily. The true qi in the body is extremely turbulent and powerful. On the other side, Emperor Liang's face turned pale with fright when he saw Emperor Qian's cultivation plummeting. What kind of perverted technique is this? He was frightened, his face changed drastically, and he ran away quickly. But Ling Feng dropped Qiandi directly, and his figure moved, appearing in front of him as fast as a ghost, smiling and extending his hand to him. There seemed to be a bottomless black hole in the palm of his hand, and a terrifying suction force spread from it, making Emperor Liang feel horrified. No surprises. Emperor Liang was grabbed by Ling Feng's palm, and the cultivation level in his body surged towards him. Like Emperor Qian, his cultivation also declined rapidly. Then, in the horrified eyes of everyone, he turned into an ordinary person with no cultivation, from Emperor Wu to an ordinary person. This is even more uncomfortable than killing two martial emperors. What the hell did you do to us? What kind of magic did you use? Return your cultivation to us. The two martial emperors roared angrily and rushed towards Ling Feng. But it hit his true qi shield and was ejected. He collapsed on the ground like mud. Senior Emperor Zhou, these two people have been reduced to useless people. It's up to Senior how to deal with them. Ling Feng smiled slightly. Emperor Zhou nodded. Okay, leave this matter to us. He looked at Ling Feng with some fear in his heart. That swallowing of the celestial immortal technique is so terrifying. Ling Feng, you have the guts to kill us. At this time, Emperor Nagin roared angrily. After losing his martial emperor cultivation, he didn't want to live anymore, so he yelled at Ling Feng, wanting to anger him and kill him. But Ling Feng just looked at them with pity and did not take action. Now you are no longer qualified to let me take action. Ding. Closing square bracket. The host showed great mercy, spared the two emperors of martial arts, spared their lives, and repaid evil with kindness. It was so kind. Closing square bracket. Reward the host with a weapon enhancement card. Weapon enhancement card. This stuff is good. He had used it once. The 7-star Dragon Abyss was originally just a good famous sword, but after using this strengthening card, it directly turned into an Emperor weapon. If used again, it will definitely surpass the scope of Emperor weapon. Become an immortal weapon. Ling Feng was very satisfied, and then Emperor Zhou had the two disabled emperors taken down and imprisoned, intending to kill them at a later date to serve as a warning to others. Ling Feng didn't stop. Not a moment. King Zhou ordered people to prepare a banquet to entertain Ling Feng. At the banquet, Ling Feng asked curiously, some time ago, the White Horse Immortal summoned the emperors at the top of the sky. Emperor Zhou, did you go too? Emperor Zhou nodded slightly, yes. How about the strength of Immortal White Horse? Very strong. Mentioning this, Emperor Zhou looked solemnly and said, he is an immortal and has the power of immortality. He can easily kill a martial emperor with just one finger. Really, that's really scary, Ling Feng said lightly. But there was no fear on his face. Even though he is no match for the White Horse Immortal now, he is confident that the other party will never be able to kill him. The worst case scenario is for Lu Rusi to take action. Although she doesn't know the specific strength of the other party, she has said that no one can do anything to her unless the Immortal Venerable Immortal Emperor comes. The Immortal Venerable Immortal Emperor is limited by the rules of the world and cannot easily end. So, when this White Horse Immortal came to the Sky Realm, it could be said that he was seeking death. The difference is that Lu Rusi killed him. Or, Ling Feng kill him. By the way, this White Horse Immortal wants us to find someone, saying that this person's name is Lu Xian, he is addicted to alcohol, he is good at swordsmanship, and his sword intent is ethereal. A heavy drinker. This reminds me of Ling Feng's master Lu Rusi. Isn't she a heavy drinker? And I heard she is also good at using swords. Her ethereal sword intent was the best at that time. The world, wait. King Zhou laughed, but then he thought of something, his pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly, he looked at Ling Feng and swallowed. Lu Shan. Lu Rusi is named Lu. He is also addicted to alcohol, and his sword intent is misty. No way, no way. The person this white horse immortal is looking for is Lu Rusi. The sky-splitting sword master, wine master and others also came to their senses and looked at Ling Feng with a look of inquiry in their eyes, waiting for the other party to give an answer. And Ling Feng smiled slightly. Oh, that's really a coincidence. He didn't admit it. Everyone was thoughtful and did not continue to ask. Anyway, no matter whether the person the other party is looking for is Lu Rusi or not, Dazhou and White Cloud sector now grasshoppers on the same line, sharing life and death. Naturally, they will not leak it easily. After the banquet, Ling Feng exchanged martial arts with Emperor Zhou and others, and then he planned to go back. Zhou Li also wanted to leave together. But he was left by Emperor Zhou. Your ancestor and I have a unique martial arts. For many years, no one in the descendants of the Zhou family has been able to learn it. But you are extremely talented and there may be hope. I plan to pass on this martial arts to you. In order not to break the inheritance, you should stay in the palace for the next few days. Zhou Li thought for a while and did not refuse. By the way, stay in the palace and spend more time with your father. I can only reluctantly send Ling Feng off. Whoosh, a stream of light flashed across the sky. But it was Ling Feng who was on his way back to White Cloud Sect. He felt his current cultivation level, and he suddenly reached the 7th level of Emperor Wu. The Martial Emperor is at the 9th level. Above the 9th level, 1 is the ultimate. And above the extreme is the Transcending Tribulation Ascension. I have the Celestial Immortal technique in hand, and after devouring a few Martial Emperors, I estimate that I can easily reach the 9th level of the Martial Emperor, or even enter the realm of the Ultimate Martial Emperor. As for Ascension, I need Transcending Tribulation first, but I'm not in a hurry. I can wait until I have accumulated enough, and then Transcending Tribulation will give me greater confidence. Ling Feng thought to himself, deciding on the next training plan. On the way back, he suddenly noticed a trace of true chi fluctuations in the distance, and he couldn't help but be a little surprised. This true chi fluctuation looks a bit familiar. Who is it? He has clairvoyance and ears open to the wind, and looks into the distance. Far away, within a mountain range, a beautiful figure was running hastily, and behind this person, there was a man dressed in black and holding a spear, who was following the woman calmly. He looked at the eagerly running woman with a hint of amusement on his face. Like a cat playing with a mouse. Where can you escape in front of me? The inheritor of the ruthless sword art, if you want to blame your ancestor. He rejected me without good reason back then, and today I will take revenge on you. Haha, I wonder if the descendants of the ruthless swordsmanship are also as cold as ice between the curtains. I can't wait to see how you perform your skills. The man in black said with a smile, with a hint of evil in his eyes. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.